What up?
It's time once again to turn on your cell phones, turn on your mobile devices, turn on your computers, and turn on your Xboxes. It's time for Kyber Cave After Dark.
Ow! How you doing, sir?
Ah, man, it's been a good day.
It's been a good day. I love hearing that. And
It's
what
been a
has made
great
it
freaking
such
day.
a good day? Hey, and there he is.
Oh, Harry Solo Fonts.
We were literally just talking about
sound
you.
font maker in the house tonight. Saber
Woo-hoo!
Community Champion.
Woohoo! And Say Wong is in the house. Hello. That is our resident anime and Comic-Con. He goes to everything. He is for
Say
the
Wong's
animes and the
champion.
local Comic-Cons out here what Kevin Hogan is for the smaller Comic-Cons. He goes every single weekend.
Look at you, Harry. Freaking
I'm
love
sure
you,
your
man.
ears were burning. Yes, so we're going to have some more people popping in tonight, too. We may even throw a link to some of you out there. We've got some interesting topics tonight. This one's going to be a little more of a relaxed one. The second part, I think we're going to do the heavy one first, and then we'll ease it out with the light and see if more people jump in. Hopefully more of the crew jumps in. You can never tell on a Friday night. Some people actually have lives. Me, I don't have a life. That's why I'm here.
Absolutely. And while we're here at the very beginning of the show and people are just rolling in, I want to remind everybody, if you have not yet had a chance to do so, please like and subscribe to this channel. Head over to kybercave.com to see all of the hot and amazing merch they got in there. Maybe purchase yourself one of these bad boys here.
Oh, and we do have that one.
And Van, how far away is Kyber Cave from the next Saber giveaway?
From then, we're only 30 subscribers away. So if 30 more people subscribe to the page, please like and subscribe. We are only on running on YouTube now. So we're still putting out advertisements and letting people know what's going on Facebook. Yep. But we are not actually there for watching. So if you want to watch it, you got to jump over to YouTube. I want to say what's up to Graveyard. I'm so excited. We have Graveyard on the show this Sunday night.
Woo! What up, Graveyard?
Graveyard does a podcast about things spooky, so I am very excited about that. And on top of that, Graveyard is our top Patreon. So thank you so much for helping support this show. You are literally putting food into Mezzo's kid's mouths.
And good evening to Danny.
What is up? Just in time for spooky Halloween giveaway. Yes, that will be. Well, hopefully we catch 30 more people. I have a con I'm going to be at called Collectible Stampede this Sunday in Woodland. There's going to be wrestlers there. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm excited. I've never seen wrestlers at a con before. But they're not like signing autographs. These people will be wrestling in a ring for your entertainment. There, and there's going to be a burrito eating contest. Hopefully those two events are happening at different times, not at the same time.
For real.
I don't want to see wrestlers burrito eating while they're fighting.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Also, guys, if you have a chance, if you haven't had the opportunity, take a look on the YouTube channel. There's another show that's up there by our wonderful producer Mezzo, and it is Kyber Cave Gaming.
Woo-hoo!
And so far, she has put two episodes. She's been playing on the Mortuary Assistant, which is a freaking scare fest of a game, which has been so much fun. There's like 5 endings, and she's already unlocked 3 of them with the help of our very own Graveyard and myself on the last episode she did. Also, as you can see behind me, might be a familiar scene, as in an upcoming episode of Kyber Cave Gaming, yours truly will be starting, in honor of Halloween, a playthrough of The Last of Us Part 1 for PlayStation 5.
Yes, I am so excited. The gaming's a new aspect on our channel. We're gonna have some new exclusive stuff going to our Patreon. And just remember, you can help us out with the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. We just picked up a new Patreon member the other day. Thank you, Quinn. For as little as $1 a month, you can help. And there's all kinds of exclusive things like sabers you can win. Even exclusive one of a kind design etched sabers. Probably have an exclusive font made on there. I don't know.
Maybe. And the Patreon, guys, is so incredibly easy. Look, it is just as cheap as going to your local fast food place and getting a cheapy little double cheeseburger. On the day that you want to have that double cheeseburger, double cheeseburger player, you think to yourself, you know what? I don't need this because the $2.99 I'm going to spend on this double cheeseburger is going to the Kyber Cave Patreon at the end of the month.
That's literally a three months of subscription.
Your double cheeseburger can go to benefit the Kyber Cave. Think about that. And it's that many calories and carbs you're not taking in, thus making yourself thinner and trimmer and a better you. I'm done. Dan, what do we got
Janino,
tonight?
what is up? It's so good to see you back. Sorry about the confusion. We had some confusion last week because we started switching over to YouTube, and not everybody knew that we had switched over and stopped streaming on Facebook. So,
hey,
so
Janina.
good to see that you made us over. We're hoping Dave, I know Dave's got some other things, so I'm hoping he jumps in by at least the second hour. Because I know he's the rock star you're here to see.
And speaking of rock stars, we have the legendary Moon's Custom Armory from Saberland. Jeremy Moon's in our house tonight. He's taking a look and seeing what's happening in the Kyber Cave.
Jeremy won the Malgus Saber from last week when we had Johnny Collado on the show.
Yep. And Jeremy is also the guy who made me a custom Old Republic saber that's right over there on my mantle. That is absolutely amazing. And when we talk,
wait, is he an installer or what does this guy do? I know nothing about Jeremy.
Jeremy installs is one of the people in Saberland who installs sabers for people, and he is freaking amazing.
Oh, sounds like someone we should talk to over on Saber Rattle.
Yup, absolutely.
We'll talk. We'll make that happen. Oh yeah, and you got to dig that hat. Shout out.
Is that your Dark Wolf hat? Look at you.
I got the glittery one too. It's all pretty.
Hey, so if I become like a $5 a month, Patreon person, can I get one of the Kyber Cave beanies?
You know what? I can't remember what's on the $5. I think you get chopsticks at the $5 level. We do have. You know what I'm really excited about, and
what's that?
And this is Graveyard to actually put this into motion. This is something we are currently working on now, so don't kill us if we don't have it out by the end of the month. We are starting with the very first of our Kyber Cave production merchandise, which means that we might have a shirt or a hat or a beanie that says After Dark, or possibly Kyber Cave Gaming. So at different subscription levels, at the higher levels, some of the things that you're offered is a exclusive Kyber Cave production shirt and a hoodie eventually. And we're working on getting those things made right now. So please be patient with us. We'll get some of your other stuff out, the stickers, the keychains, the chopsticks, all that stuff I can get out. But some of the more exclusive stuff. And the Kyber Cave Productions, we're going to advertise it on our Kyber Cave website. But you will only be able to buy Kyber Cave production merch. You cannot buy that through kybercave.com. You will only be able to buy it if you are a Patreon subscriber. So if you want the KCP merch, you got to be on the Patreon. And like I said, it's only $1 a month at our lowest level.
And I'm going to make it so that one of the things you can get is a Kyber Cave Gaming hoodie with Mezzo's face on it going... Love you,
we'll have the back of your head on the back. It'll be a mixed combo thing. All right. So
on the back it'll say, may the fours be with you.
I hope Aubrey is okay, because she just sent a message. I'll be right there. I hope she's okay. We're waiting for Aubrey to jump in, but I think we should just go ahead and just get going. What do you say?
Yes.
Boing. Employments, long-term loyalty versus job jumping.
Ooh, I want to start the ball here.
All right, what are your thoughts, my man? As somebody who has been in the kind of employment market and game as of recently,
yeah,
I think you're the perfect one to start it.
Yeah. So, I'm one of those kind of guys who, especially having children, having a wife, I think long-term employment is important. I think consistency is important. Whether you're brand new to the job and you're in there, 6 months, and you're like, okay, you don't necessarily have to climb the corporate ladder,
Right.
but just getting there every day, doing what it is you're supposed to do, and going home, and that's not even like the quiet quitting attitude. That is okay, I'm up. I know what my responsibility is today, and I'm going to do this for the 128th business day in a row now.
Right.
So you're just going and doing what you do, and you just keep doing it, and you stick with that employer. It's long-term loyalty. I have been, in my experience, loyal to companies. Gosh, my last two jobs were 10 years and 5 years respectively, and they had to let me go. Not, I didn't give them the bird and be like, F y'all, and just walk out. I mean,
Right.
I gave them the long years. There were many an evening and night. I wasn't here at home. I missed a lot of my kids growing up. But looking back, I can say, you know what? Those bills got paid.
Right.
There were plenty of times where I wasn't even worried because I knew I could just get up the next day and go to work. And I had more of a sense of security in that in that frame of time.
Right. Right. Especially with as crazy as the economy has been. I mean, not just right now, but God, it seems like, call me a conspiracy theorist, say what you will, but it feels like every 12 years, the economy takes a dump on the middle class.
You're a
Like 12
conspiracy
years ago.
theorist.
Screw you, man.
I'm going home.
I'm going home.
Jeremy says 22 years with the same company, been with a great company. I love my job. I love my schedule. I may have issues, but they are minor, not walked over. Long-term loyalty. Good on you, Jeremy.
Well, hey, you know what, Jeremy? I would like to ask, is that a small business or a large business that you work for? Is it like kind of like a Walmart type of corporation where there's hundreds of employees, or is it more of a mom and pops kind of thing, or maybe a small franchise or something? Because I really think too how you get treated. I've been treated differently in a lot of different jobs. I feel a lot of times the corporate jobs tend to be more cold. You're just kind of seen as another warm body to fill the position.
You're not
Whereas
wrong.
with some of the mom and pop jobs, you really build a relationship with the owner. You don't take on the responsibilities of the business, but because it's smaller, you see more of the day-to-day operations, and we don't necessarily have a big budget, or you know what I mean. You see what's really how the money impacts, and you see your role in that job. But I think sometimes with the bigger ones, it sometimes gets missed.
My owners didn't take a paycheck during COVID to keep others with jobs, and then family business, local shop only to Calgary. So there you go. It's a local deal for him. Hi, honey.
Your mic is off. Hello. Yeah, I'll say that while Aubrey's getting, yeah, you are a little bit low.
Oh, okay.
Is it just me, or do you feel she's a little low, Aaron?
She should raise her gain just a little bit.
I had it low last time because it was too high last time.
There you go.
You sound perfect now. Hi.
Okay, good. Hi, darling. Hello, Ark.
Hello. So good to see you. Thank you for being on tonight.
You're welcome. I have my Star Trek jacket here. Gotta represent.
Sweet.
Oh, dude, it's even better on the back.
Hold on. Nice.
Oh, we got a bunch of comments flooding in here.
Oh, badass.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Is that did you get that from like a local person, or where'd you get that from?
No, I got it at the Symphony for the 50th anniversary of Star Trek.
Sweet.
That's dope.
The Symphony playing. Oh yeah, I was of course bawling through the whole thing.
Hey, so we're already going here, Aubrey. I'm gonna let you jump in because there's a bunch of comments coming in that I want to get to. Janina says a large corporates tend to be the ones that don't know who their employees are. Yeah, also on that one note, I also wanted to say during when we had to close our doors for COVID, I kept paying my shop manager. I only had one employee I couldn't, but he was a part-time employee. But my shop manager, who was a family man and had a mortgage, even though we were a very public social store, that was when we built our first website. I tried having him doing work from home so that I could keep him on payroll during this whole thing. So, I do feel like there's a difference between the bigger shops and the smaller ones. Just signed papers for a new job after 5 years with my current company. One of the last straws for me was when they took away our water.
Oh
Jesus.
my gosh, dude.
I hope that wasn't like a construction job or something.
Oh my gosh.
No, Harry's a friend. I know what he was doing.
Why did they take away water? Wait. You're going to have to explain this a little bit, Harry.
Pay raises is short-term fulfillment. It's the little things that matter.
Yeah, that's something that's very true. And I'll tell you something else.
You took away water, Harry? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things that happened with me was like, many of us over the last 3-4 years, we received raises, but everybody got something. And it was because there was that big push to move businesses to $15 an hour. So for the longest, we were making like 10 or 11. And then, Merry Christmas, you all make 12. It's like, oh my God, it's a pay rate. No, it's not. And then randomly later on, it was like $12.50. And then 6 months later, it was 13. And like eventually it got to 15. But by the time we were making 15, freaking Domino's over in 2 towns over, they're starting people at $16.50. Like, dude, I could literally be manhandling pepperoni for $1.50 more.
Right.
And you also have to take into account when, even though with the the minimum wage, it's still not accounting for any inflation or anything like that, because unfortunately, because of inflation and rising costs of everything else, you're still living at that minimum wage level. You're not getting it.
Right, because when you're making $12.50 and gas is $1.79 a gallon, you get up to 14, and oh, look at that, gas is $3.28 a gallon. It's like, okay,
and now it's $7.
And now it's asinine. So
asinine. And honestly, and if you look into it, it's not because the oil companies are losing profit. They're not. They're actually soaring.
No.
Right. Well, I know in the Bay we have a couple shutdowns on refineries. Graveyard says something, and I want to go back to a couple of these other comments, but really quickly, when the company stops being loyal to me, I look elsewhere. In IT, it only pay raises or job jumping. I used to have a saying. I used to work for Gymboree. Gymboree, for those that don't know, is a children's clothing store. And I remember, I don't know how many of you people have worked retails, but you may or may not be familiar with this situation. But in our store, as a store manager or shift manager, you had a goal for the night, right? So maybe your goal was to break $2,000 for the night in sales, right? And I remember some managers would be like, they would come up to like 1980, and then they'd be like, oh my God, I'm only $20 away from goal. I better go buy something for $20 so I can hit my goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was a good manager. When I was on the clock, I hustled. You know what I mean? I brought in my sales because I was good at what I did. But never once, if I was even $1 away, would I put my own money in. Because my philosophy is, you know what? If I'm $1 short on rent, they're not going to kick in an extra dollar. My philosophy was, I used to say, I love Gymboree just as much as Gymboree loves me.
The company makes $1 and you make a dime, and that's why you poop on company time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Harry, big time. Plus, the offer from this new company came out of nowhere. I didn't even apply. They just kept me in touch for 2 years, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse. You know what's crazy? Let's go to job jumping for a minute. I had a plumber here in the house this morning who did an outstanding job working on the bathroom and everything. And we were talking about new jobs and things like that. And he said something very, very fascinating. And I find it right now, in the midst of everything this nation's going through, to be true. He says, the most significant pay raise you will ever receive is getting a new job. That's what he said. Think about that. Let that sink the freak in for a minute. The most significant pay raise you can shoot for right now.
Oh,
get a new job.
Right.
That's crazy, dude.
Because you're not going to get a raise in your job, is what you're saying.
Not with this.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that too. I mean, I feel like we need to go back into like history of like minimum wage and go back into a little bit of why this is important to talk about.
Sure.
One of the things. So minimum wage actually means livable wage. When FDR signed the new deal, because minimum wages weren't a thing actually before the new deal. People were and especially during the Great Depression, people were like just making maybe pennies. You had all these workplace abuses that were happening that, no one got compensated for, no one got to pay for or got paid for. There were all of these like things that were problems. So when FDR created the New Deal, he created the minimum wage, which really means this is the least amount that people can live off of that you need to provide as a company. Meaning that they should still be able to afford a house, afford a car, afford groceries, and still take their kids on vacation. That was something that was for the minimum wage. It wasn't survivable wage. It was a livable wage. It meant that people were getting up, which boosted the middle class.
Right.
And then you had and this was because, and it also had to do with taxing like the most wealthy as well. Like at the time, the 1970s and 1980s came around. Corporations were being taxed somewhere up to 70 to 90%. And they were still making, in some places 90%, and they were still making profit. Record profits were still being made. But what they would do to take down some of that, what they would do to take down some of the costs of the taxes, they would pay it into infrastructure. They would put it into their employees. They would put it into things like education and our roads, and all of those taxes were going to these things that are really important to the American society. I mean, this is why, colleges were so cheap back in the 70s and 80s. You had all of because the government was actually footing most of the bill because
they were subsidizing the majority of it.
Exactly. They were subsidizing the majority of it. And this was part of the infrastructure. This was something that was put in place for the New Deal. Then you had trickle-down economics that came into play into the 80s. And the whole idea of the trickle-down economics was that the thought was, which is bullshit, but the thought is that, you cut taxes for the wealthy, and they will in turn turn that into paying more to their employees and
the good old Reaganomics.
It'll trickle down. Everything will trickle down if we just cut taxes for the biggest corporations.
And let me ask this question in regards to families. Then we can get back to the comments. What decade was it when homes started to become primarily 2-income houses where husband and wife went to work? Because wasn't that in the 70s?
Okay.
It started in the 70s, but 80s is where it was predominant. You have the whole generation of latchkey kids, and that was because there was 2 parents that were going to work. So 80s was when it was like, the cultural norm, but it started obviously in the 70s.
Started in the 70s, and a lot of that was because women wanted to work. It wasn't because you could still make it fine on a single household income. But women wanted to work. That was a huge thing. And that was kind of that whole shift, is like women wanted to be productive. They didn't just want to be looked at, I'm a wife and a mother and someone's sexual object. They're like, no, I'm a real person. I want to make my own wages. I want to make my own money. I want to have a credit card, which was not a thing. Women could not get credit cards up until the late 70s.
Right. I think a lot of it started during World War II when a lot of the men were shipped off and the women were starting to now go to work in the factories and doing these jobs that they had never been allowed to do before. Now we needed them because all the men were off fighting in this war. But what happened, the difference is, see, here's the difference.
Sorry, back then, that was more of a necessity. World War I. I have to just correct myself. Sorry.
Right after that, then there also became the idea that women could do jobs that they had never maybe been thought of doing before, right? So maybe in the early, maybe 60s and 70s, it's possible that there were a group of women who were more, I don't know, business minded or whatever, or wanted that type of lifestyle. However, I feel like by the time we got to the 80s, it was no longer a choice, but a necessity. That was when it started to become necessary for families to have two incomes instead of just one parent being able to go out while one parent stays home with the child.
We really saw that take hold in the 90s. I would say that's when it really became stabilized, was in the 90s. Whereas, like what you're saying is a necessity. I think it definitely got worse and worse as the 80s went on with trickle-down economics, as it started to really play into and start to really change the landscape. I mean, because then you had the other pieces, right? The monopolies started cropping up again because the New Deal also made it so monopolies couldn't be a thing. You'd have to break up monopolies. But what's happening now? We have monopolies back. And that's because you've had lobbying, and which was also something that wasn't allowed up until Reaganomics really started. You money in politics. You had a lot of these things. But yeah, going back to what you were saying though about World War II, absolutely, you had women going to work, starting to do work, and they were starting to break these barriers. But we didn't have like the women's rights movement until the 60s with the civil rights movement.
Right. Let's see.
So the 50s was like kind of a call back to the wife and the stayed home and had the nuclear family that was really pushed because women didn't want to go back home. And this was like, that was the way that America, when the men came back, that was kind of like trying to make women go back to their place, was the kind of nuclear family ideal. So anyways, go ahead, Art.
I guess this is a side and then we'll come right back in. Side question. We're going to have Halloween themed episodes for this month. More tales from the fours. We definitely should. We've got Metso. We'll talk to her.
It was James. It was suggested last week that the Friday before Halloween, we were all talking about like maybe dressing up during Kyber Cave. I know Anthony was gonna plan and do something really big, but also if you're on the channel, James, pay attention to Kyber Cave Gaming because Metso is doing scary games all month, and I'm going to be joining the gaming channel or gaming thing as well, and I'm starting Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 tonight.
And I'm just going to be scared all month.
So,
and one of these points I will prop into one of these guys' chats because I join these guys' game things because this is something that I want to do.
We left a bunch of comments kind of hanging at the wayside there.
I wanted to say, I'm like, what? This isn't a horror story enough, guys? This isn't a horror story enough for you? Come on.
Right. Yeah, one of the things I was seeing and when I was reading the comments that were going by the site, and I try to hit everyone so that when this is watched back on YouTube, everybody's comment hits screen. But they were really talking about, like how a job treats you. I know I've taken a lot more abuse from a job when I liked my boss. Like when I felt like they went to bat for me as much as I went to bat for them, I would stay extra time, even time off the clock or whatever to help them out or, come in early or, but I really feel like, how much do you guys feel? There's that old adage about it doesn't matter how much you're paid, it's how you're treated. Do you guys feel that's true, or is there a dollar amount you can be bought off for if somebody treats you like shit every day?
Okay, so in terms of long-term loyalty goes both ways. There is a level of trust that has to be built between an employer and an employee. And something I learned from an old boss who used to be the greatest dude I ever knew. He said a supervisor, an owner, a manager is responsible for two very important things, and the second one always gets left out. They are responsible for, number one, managing, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, and number two, counsel. Your manager is responsible for your mental well-being. As much as people want to be like, no, Forrest, that's wrong. You need to have your own head in check before, you need to check all your mess at the door and your drama at the door. No. Let me tell you all something. There are levels that management they are allowed to go to with you to make sure that you are all the way there. Like, they want to make sure that your mental state is good, because you come in a piss poor mood, that's going to affect your job performance. So they can actually check on you without being nosy, and they can give good, decent counsel. And I think managers either, number one, have forgotten how to do that, or they are not trained to do that. You are going to find that family-owned businesses, more often than not, are going to be the ones that are going to check on you. They're going to call you. They're going to be friends with your wife on Facebook. They're going to be the ones who give a crap about you. And that's where the long-term loyalty comes from, because number one, you know how much they're struggling. They know how much you're struggling. And if you're sitting there at that $14-15 an hour and you need to make more, but you don't want to leave the job because you've been there for 4.5 years already, then yeah, you've got a really good established relationship. And that's where your loyalty comes into play, because in the end, it's going to be worth your time.
Right.
You are worth their time. They are worth your time.
Right.
That's
I want to go back
loyalty.
and hit some of these comments that are coming in. Go ahead and read some. It shouldn't just be me. You guys read some too.
James, question. Are you loyal because of your passion for your job? What if you lose that passion? Wow. What, James, what are we implying, sir?
Right, exactly. I was going to say, yeah, that's absolutely
Force the
true.
quiet quitter.
I was thinking about that. I don't know. Like, what if, of course, I love right now. We own a lightsaber store. I love lightsabers. They're the greatest thing on the planet. But I often think, it's such a specialized, small niche of a thing. What if someday I just get bored of it? Would I still be able to have a store? And I honestly, I don't know. If I didn't have the passion for it, if I didn't love the beauty of the art of a hilt, right? Not just how, using it for tool, but the beauty of the craftsmanship. If I didn't love the craftsmanship of the sound fonts, I don't think I could be as passionate about selling these things.
I can answer your question for you easily. Then let me ask you a question. Do you intend on growing your business?
Of course.
Okay. So with that, if you're going to grow your business, just like you're growing your channel, because the channel right now is more than Saber Rattle and Kyber Cave After Dark. You've got gaming coming into play. Eventually, if you're going to grow your business, you're going to sell more than just lightsabers. You're going to sell merch, and then you're going to add other things to your store. Hell, you may add things from your other channels to the store. So yeah, if you lose your passion for the saber, but you've got so many other things in your store that you can focus on, then yeah, dude, run your store.
Okay. Obviously, someone hasn't been over to the website, because you would see goddamn lightsaber socks, lightsaber umbrellas, you know what I did? I scoured the fucking internet and bought every Lego individual character I could find of every character that carries a lightsaber. No clones, no other characters, just lightsabered characters. And some of these characters were like on screen for a half of a second.
Yeah,
but
true.
They're in the store.
But it's still lightsabers. I'm still waiting on your hoodie with Metzo's face doing this.
So I think Forrest really hit the question on the head. I think that when you have a manager, yes, dear, you hit it right. You got it right there. So the thing is that, God, I just totally lost my train of thought here. So
it's my fault.
It's your fault. Why are you always distracting me?
Because I love you so much. That's why.
I know you do. You do love me. That's okay. I love you too. Anyways,
it's not so much the passion for what I do; it's the passion for working for the company that would cause
the passion that fulfills me. So I can tell you two different work stories as a difference. So as everyone knows, I worked for Radio Shack. I worked there for 4 years, and one of the biggest reasons why I stayed at Radio Shack for such a long time is because I worked under one of the best people who happened to also be one of my best friends, which that's not actually allowed, but it was like the biggest kept secret. Like we actually were roommates, but everyone knew like the big kept secret. And I ended up like moving stores when she got promoted to different stores. We were one of the best teams in Radio Shack. We started at the little San Bruno store, then we moved to Redwood City, and then we moved to San Jose, which was their flagship store. Right, and this was right during the time when Radio Shack started to implode from higher up, and it trickled down. I mean, when I say trickled down, I mean I'm not talking about the economic part of it. I'm talking about like it was just awful. The fallout was so bad, and the thing is that my manager didn't matter. She always fought. As I said, one of my best friends. I always did so much at that job. Like, and it was never, hey, can you stay late to do this? It was, you're going to stay late to do this. I'm like, all right. But at the time, she also made sure that all of us were taken care of. And that she fought for us, in pay raises. She fought for us with her, like when I went into tech, which is what I wanted, I wanted to grow a different way because I didn't want to work 40 plus hours a week because I was in school at the time and I was trying to pursue a music career. So I didn't want to be a manager because I saw how much it sucked away her life, but I was really good at it. They kept trying to promote me to management over and over and over again. But I went into tech because they opened a tech thing. And because I was like, I can make more money that way and, do this cool thing doing tech, which means I fixed phones and iPads and all that. That's what I went into doing. And I was one of the only women who stuck with that job because women, unfortunately in tech, women still, at that time, which was 2011, 2012, 2013, because I worked there from I went into the tech park when they opened it up. It was 2013, 2014. And it paid better, and then you could get more commission on the way that way. And by the end of the 3-month starting period, I was one of the top earners in the tech part of it. And that was because I was good at it. But at the same time, it also was, she fought for me for all of that because there was a weird thing that women weren't good at tech and anything that could go wrong was ultimately blamed on us, where the men in the tech, it was the machine, it was whatever. They didn't get nearly as punished for it if something went wrong. And then after Radio Shack imploded, and so she quit, and then the other 2 managers that she trained and that also had successful stores up until this point, they quit the same day too. And that's loyalty. And then I quit the next day because that was basically loyalty. That was because I was like, I'm going to give you my 2 weeks. I'm going to do this the honorable way.
Yeah.
And this was after they gave her so much shit. She ended up walking out. She's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And then they did it to me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I leave.
Jeez Louise.
Graveyard says, I've been a system engineer for 15 years, one woman in all my jobs. Even in school, there was only one. We need more women in the field.
I agree, we do. Because in my next job, I was the only woman there. And the sexism was so palpable. I left that job within 4 months, like three to 4 months. I basically left because the hostile work environment was so bad.
Yeah, people often talk about sexism. Obviously, with Harvey what was his name? Harvey Weinstein? Weinstein. Yeah. Obviously, with all those kind of scandals and things like that, you hear about it a lot the other direction. I have experienced it, not necessarily the sexism. Well, maybe yes. Not that I was being sexually harassed. Let's say that I wasn't being sexually harassed, but I have experienced sexism in the other direction as a preschool teacher. And that is because preschool teachers are very rarely men. It's most typically women. And so I've had to deal with, having a tough time getting advancement, not being taken seriously as a teacher, having to prove myself for the first year that I was there for, for the kids and for the right reason, and not that this was just a little side job or something like that. As a male teacher, I never, like, if a child, because I dealt with children in their 4s and their 5s. So if there was a child that had a dirty diaper or something like that, or had an accident, I always made sure there was a female teacher within eyesight of me, so that there could never, ever be a reason that anybody could say anything. I've always had, somebody within visual, but I've had parents straight up tell me, I don't want him with my kids. I don't feel comfortable with the male preschool teacher.
And that's not fair. This is why sexism hurts everybody.
Right.
Not just, and what's funny is that in teaching, that used to be a male dominated role too. And as you see, as the higher the institutions went for teaching, the more male dominated it becomes. Like professors, like people who go to the college level, the ratio between men and women is very, very different. It's very skewed versus, K through or preschool through.
Actually, yeah, you could probably say that goes all the way up from preschool to college. The higher the level, the more men you will see. Even in high school, probably all of us had more male teachers in high school than we did in, say, elementary school. Or,
absolutely.
Not to say that they're not there. I mean, obviously, I was a preschool teacher, and, I was the first preschool teacher my school had hired in 26 years that was a male. So that's a little bit of an indication of how rare a regular staff teacher is.
Right. And that's because of the weird expectations that are early child rearing are straightly pushed onto the woman, not the male. Like, I mean, you get these people that are heralded as being good dads for changing a diaper once in a while. That is wrong. I don't think that's okay. That's just child caring. That's just, I think that needs to stop too. I think that it needs to be normalized that men can be just as much caregivers as women.
Oh, exactly. When that was my whole argument. Like, my son was literally in the classroom next door. Like, I've changed my son's diaper 1,000 times. You know what I mean? This is just because I don't have breasts doesn't mean that I'm not capable of nurturing a child who has a boo-boo elbow. You know what I mean? Or doing an art activity or feeding a child. I mean, I don't know why they somehow think it's different with men. And the same can be said with women in technology, right? Why should women, especially when I feel like we routinely see, whenever you see these like genius children, like, it's a little 9-year-old Indian girl who's finished Harvard and Oxford at the same time.
Right. And I mean, I got constantly told how much I did the job wrong. And even like, it was actually really funny yesterday when I was working the gig, I had somebody shadowing me as a young guy. And he started telling me what I should do for the job. And I'm like, you know that I've been here for a year. I know how to do my job. Like, I know how to do this. Like, you're supposed to be shadowing me for training. He goes, oh, I did mansplain a little, didn't I? I was like, yes.
That was the whole thing in She-Hulk.
And at least he was aware of it. At least he was like becoming aware of that. You know what I mean? That was huge for him, I think.
Well, that was really the whole like thing with She-Hulk about being, having something explained to you that you've been doing for the past 10 years from somebody who has way less experience.
Jeez Louise, I got to get caught up on that. I forgot to watch it yesterday.
Okay, dear. I am like so far behind on all of those.
Yeah, not to go crazy to the side, but I'm friggin' excited for Werewolf by Night, dude. That released last night and is supposedly absolutely amazing. It's done in the 30s and 40s horror style of the old monster movies. It's actually filmed in black and white and filmed like the old-timey movies, but it fits directly into the Marvel universe. I'm excited about that.
That's my
really
jam.
Quickly, only because I didn't get a chance to say it earlier. James Navarro, and I believe Philippe are both road tripping right now to Oregon. They are a part of a fantastic podcast called Distance Nerding. They are our sister crew up in Sacramento, so we give them love always. In fact, I have my water bottle with my distance nerding sticker right there. Kyber Cave underneath, of course. And you're both watching. Well, hopefully somebody's driving the goddamn car. I hope the person who's driving is not watching.
But yeah, so in job jumping, so I'm a gig worker, so I work gigs as a musician, a singer, and an actor. We get paid basically for each job that we do, and on one hand, it's really great because you get to jump to different jobs, like you don't have a set schedule, and you if you don't work for somebody, you can often choose what you want to work for. But if you're working like as an actor, they tell you what you're going to be paid, and then you basically go, okay, yay or nay. So I guess for me, job jumping is good. It's positive. People would like to say that it's not positive, though, that it shows bad. I mean, I got told this a lot. If you quit too many jobs or you show too many jobs on your resume or even your employment, it's bad. And it's like, well, how do I say that I was a gig worker? I did all these things for a while.
There's a really large difference between going from one gig to another and then going from one retail store to another. You see what I'm saying? Like there's like about 12 years ago, there was an article that came out that I read concerning job jumping, and it had just about everything to do with wages. People even back then, people just still were not happy with wages, and they would go work a job and they would finish their probationary period. They would stick around for like 6 months, and then they leave. They just straight up leave. Either they got pissed off because of the staff drama, they didn't like the management, they didn't like the pay, and they're like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to quit and I'm going to leave. Damn the consequences, because in their minds there was no consequence. They didn't care how it looked on a resume. They just wanted to get to the next job because they always knew somebody was going to hire them. So they would go and do something different. And they found, crazily enough, they found that not only were they making more money, they were having more success, and while it said on their resumes that they've had too many jobs, they've had a truckload of different experiences. And
I'd agree with that.
A lot of people, found some degree of success doing that, and they continued to do it until they eventually found a company they were happy working for, or they got lucky, started their own business, and made it that way.
No, I'm just saying, this is something that I was told. This is something that's been taught. Like, oh, you don't want to jump. You don't want to have too many. Like, you want to show that you have long-term employment so people will hire you.
Loyal, yeah.
I've been told that. And that's something that has been told. But yet I agree with you that, you need to find a job that works for you.
Right. I think what happened is we kind of grew up.
Sorry, I'm eating. I didn't eat. I didn't eat a lot, so I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
I can hear the fork clanking.
I'm sorry.
I grew up in a different time where I feel like, and some of you may have had the same parents. When I was growing up, I was told you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job at a corporation, you retire, you die. That's your life plan and projection, right? But by the time I was starting to get out of, I went to college in 92 to show you how old I am. Already at that time, that whole retirement structure for businesses was starting to go away. By that time, by the end of the 80s, corporations were no longer keeping people and giving them pension plans like they used to do in the 60s and 70s and in the 50s. The whole way we were told to grow up no longer existed. What I think is hilarious, and we've talked about it on this show before.
Thanks, Trickle down.
Like all the things that I used to get in trouble for as a kid. Oh, stop playing video games. You'll never get anywhere in life doing that. Stop playing with toys. You'll never... All these motherfuckers with YouTube channels playing video games and showing off their action figures are making millions of dollars. All the things we were told would never do anything for us. I think it's because people have followed their passion in a time when jobs weren't necessarily reliable.
Well,
the whole point of the matter is I'm saying that the world that we grew up in doesn't exist anymore.
No.
And we have had to figure it out on the fly, how to adjust to this new changing thing. And one of the things we always were told before is that you don't job jump, right? You've got to show loyalty, put in the extra hours, stay off the clock, show show how loyal you are to the
Don't
company.
quiet quit.
Don't quiet quit, right? But that world doesn't exist anymore, and we've actually gone the opposite direction, where sometimes the only way to get ahead is to job jump, because if you're not being appreciated where you're at, you need to go somewhere where they're, I guess in a business sense, desperate enough to pay you more money.
What I will add to this is that I do think that in a way we are living in a Gilded Age, very much like in the 1920s. It seems like everything's profit. People are making all this money, but that's only on the surface. Below that, you have all of these, like the rising costs of things, and people are struggling to stay in houses and pay rent and food and all that. So it's really interesting because you had a lot of it is very parallel to the Gilded Age of the 1920s. The richer are making more money, they're getting richer. The poor are getting poorer. There's almost no middle class to be spoken of right now. You have empty houses. Just empty houses.
Empty houses and people living on the streets. I don't fucking understand it.
Because money. Because it's a Gilded Age.
Right. Well, we're living in a weird time right now. It's one of the few times where, you always look at the hedge. I hate those fucking hedge fund managers. All these people that have been living off of, basically the destruction of another class. But they are crying and bitching right now because they have, through the banks, they have bought up all of these houses and kicked people out of their houses, raised the rents, and then they started building more apartments to put these people in, and people aren't buying either of them. So now they're bitching and crying about, oh, we're losing so much money. Well, when you bank on people's disadvantage, when you bank on people's lives being shitty, fuck you. I don't give a shit if you're losing money on your houses.
I also have another story about long-term learning. So go ahead, dear, and then I will add in.
I want to also say something. I have another label. Okay, I have another label. Because again, we've spoken about this in the past, and I've always acted a little upset on screen when I talk about YouTubers making millions and millions of dollars. I have a new word for it. It's risk money. Right? Those people who are getting famous overnight, they show their asses on the internet and they get 200 million, they get 2 million views, and then YouTube sending them a check for freaking, $749,000. It's a risky game though, because it much like the mouse, okay, especially and oh my God, let me say this: if you're going to do something with an IP, or you're going to create content based upon an IP, you better be really freaking careful as to what you do on screen, because you're being watched. And bear in mind, sure, you got that $749,000, but what happens if YouTube shuts down tomorrow? Or what happens when policies, imagine this place for a moment. Imagine what would happen if YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these places that you can make money on the internet, just either shut down or completely change their policy and made it state, okay, you can.
And it's happened. In fact, that's a big controversy happening at Twitch right now. Is they're cutting down?
Yeah,
and cutting down the pay.
And let me say this: what if they change it all up? Right? What if they say, okay, you can post your pictures, you can post your videos, you can speak freely. Here's your freedom of speech, right? But we're not paying you anymore. We don't care how many views you get. We don't care how many subs you have. We don't care how many people follow you. We're not going to send you any more money. What are these people going to do? What are they going to do? Like the people who've already made it, who started 10 to 12 years ago, the PewDiePies and the Markipliers and the Corey Kenshins and the Dashy Gameses of the world, they've already made it. They're freaking millionaires.
Right.
But the people who are starting to make it, who are like trying to get monetized right now, and I'm just making the point. What's going to happen when this goes away?
See, here's the thing, though,
Right.
is I don't think it's any different than any other business. It's just a different business, right? I know that sounds weird, but anytime I have never personally, even when I've had one job, I've always had side gigs. I've been a stage artist. I produce television shows. I produce live shows. I've had other things because I've always, it's kind of like not putting all your eggs in one basket, right?
Sure.
And me personally, this is why I mean, I have sympathy. I have some compassion, but when people work for these companies, like, like it's the whole town works for Ford or whatever, and then the company shuts down. Yes, I feel bad for the people, but the company doesn't owe you that. If the company is not making money, or if they're not making, they're not responsible to
I disagree.
be
I
the
disagree
only
to
income.
I disagree to a point, because if they
Mhm.
come into your town and they take over all of the surrounding businesses and they make it so you have to work for them, that is predatory. And if they suddenly shut down and move, that they don't leave a lot of options that are open for someone to find another job like that. That is predatory.
Right, but if
And
you
then
can't
what you're
sustain it,
doing is you're putting the blame onto people who are working for them, who only know, like factory workers and all that only know to work for those companies. That's unfair. It's on the company to make sure these people are trained to the degree that they can find that they leave better than they did when they came in. I think that is so important. That goes to the job, the long-term loyalty too.
but some of that I think
You
has
should
to
leave
come
a
down to
job
personal.
more prepared than you came in, more learned.
I think some of that comes down to personal responsibility too, and I think that's something that's missing in a lot of conversations about these. If I can see the writing on the wall, if my company was producing 200,000 cars a year for 10 years, and now we're producing, 100,000, and then 5 years later we're producing 50,000, I'm looking at the writing on the wall and going, you know what? I better prepare for some change to come around here, or it's going to be me and my family's ass.
But
Right? It's
that's not
kind of like the grasshopper, that story about the grasshopper who just wants to eat all summer, doesn't save up for winter. Like there have been
terrible.
positions. I've been in a company that shut down because they weren't making money, and thankfully I've had other skills and I was doing other things that it affected me, but it was more of a speed bump than it was a pot, a big gaping hole in my life.
But you're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying companies that go into places that are usually poor, they're uneducated or undereducated people, and they're like they basically make them so they can only they teach these people only to do a certain thing. They don't help to get their skills, to have a skill set that they can leave and get another job in the same field. They don't do that. That's what I'm saying. There are jobs that are predatory like that.
The army, the military. I mean, what job really can you say? I know a lot of jobs will offer you something like, let's say you work for them and you go to college. They'll give you, a certain amount of reimbursement,
GI Bill.
especially
That's
if
the
it's
GI Bill, though. That was put into law. That's the GI Bill.
Can I throw something? Can I throw something in? And this might make you chuckle. When you say that, when you say these places move into poorer communities, I'm going to paint you a picture. All right. My little redneck podunk town is like, you can't really find us on the map. All right. We're kind of like a side of the road sort of town. As you get further out and you start taking county roads, there's even more podunk communities. But there is a common denominator that you're going to find, and it's the first damn thing you see on the side of the road almost every 4 miles, and that is Dollar General.
Yes, I was just watching a YouTube. Literally, so funny you said that. I was literally
Walmart.
30
Walmart
minutes watching a documentary about how they are invading smaller towns. They put a stranglehold on the low income community, is what they were saying.
Walmart did the same thing too. Yeah,
and honestly, it's not here in my town, but if you go out the county road I was just telling you, and a little further beyond, or if you even head north, like I was telling you guys with the scary story with the death call, you head that direction. What's the first grocery store you're gonna find? It's freaking Dollar General. You go east that way, right? What's the first thing you're gonna hit? A little rundown Dollar General,
right?
And I'm telling you, man, they're a freaking empire. They really are.
They are. They have there is $1 General for every 2 Starbucks.
And honestly, my community only has 2 Starbucks within a 40-mile radius.
Right. Well,
but I've got
here in the Bay, you got Starbucks inside Starbucks. So when
I
you
have-
kind
I
of
have worked-
spread that
I've
out
worked for
across the
Starbucks,
country,
so-
Yeah.
that's a lot of goddamn Dollar Generals.
Dude, Dollar
But I will
General's
say-
freaking everywhere.
But I will say that leaving Starbucks, I know I could go to pretty much most coffee shops and work at them. At least have a skill that can transfer to other ones. Working at Dollar General would.
You're gonna stock a shelf, and you're either gonna stock a shelf or you're gonna reset that self checkout machine 180 times a day. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna reset that freaking thing because it doesn't work, or you're gonna stock shelves.
There's also the whole thing about moving companies overseas because you got shell corporations. You've got these things that you've got the people who go to evade the tax. Even though we get so many tax cuts, why? But you have like people like Mitt Romney who go into these companies. Sorry, Mitt Romney, it's still not a great thing. I don't think he's ever going to watch this, but Mitt Romney was actually someone who was hired to go into companies and destroy them from the inside out to make them so poor that he could sell them and make a profit. Because through the bankruptcy process, he would get.
Wasn't that the whole plot of Pretty Woman? I mean, the secondary. That was his job,
and it was one of those things. It was to move them overseas because they would move the companies overseas, destroying them from the inside out, so that they would make more money.
I want to get to this comment here by Graveyard. I think part of this, part of it is desire to learn. For me, I try to learn as much as possible. I have others in my company that don't want to learn new things, so they can't leave. And that's part of what I was getting at. I am not by any means heartless to the conditions of, I understand when factories move in, and maybe they're moving there because there aren't other opportunities. If there's nothing there anyway, and I give you an opportunity, I don't necessarily feel I can be, blamed if it doesn't work out, as a corporation. Now, I do realize it's a little different with cars. You've got these millionaires that are getting golden parachutes and multi-million-dollar checks. But I'm thinking on a smaller level with myself. If Kyber Cave goes down, I have employees, and I've done the best that I can to take care of my employees. But I don't feel like I could be blamed for if I just can't keep the lights on, that it's my fault if they lose their jobs.
And that's not necessarily what I'm. Shout out to Mitt. Thanks for watching. James, buddy.
Let's go.
James, I love it. I'm not trying to make this a whole political thing. I'm just trying to give some like understanding about people who are in those positions. Not about learning. There's also other things that are in factor there. Yes, there is some of that. I don't want to learn anything new, but you have to think these are also people who work like 3 different jobs, and they're trying to keep their house afloat, if that, maybe a trailer afloat. And then they have to pay, their dental, they're losing a tooth because they can't, afford to buy. It's not just one thing. It's a cumulative. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all these different circumstances. We can't go point and be like, this is what's a fault. Actually, I know it's a fault. It's millennials. They're just killing everything. I wanted to say this joke earlier, I didn't get a chance.
It's a good thing I'm a Gen Xer.
I would just venture to say there are many of us, and I might even say the majority of us in the United States that are living in that. I think it's so funny with the rise of the what they call the gig economy. I was living that life long before it had a cool name. I had multiple jobs. When I was in college, I had four technical jobs, and I was a student, and I was a parent. But I think some of it comes down to, I was always afraid of failing. So when my son was born, that was when I went back to college and studied to become a teacher. Before that, I had been a poet for 10 years, right? So if I didn't necessarily eat that night, I wasn't necessarily worried about it. I was traveling or doing stage performances. Sometimes you might make $30, sometimes you might make $100 in the night. You know what I mean? I was willing to do that when it was just me. But when it became about having to take care of this new person, I had to, look for a little more stability and a little more sacrifice. James was talking about some of the advantages. And I think a lot of times so many people are wrapped up in having a 9-to-5 job that they forget that there are whole other economies and people who don't have that. Just like Aubrey was saying, like actors, right? That's technically a gig by gig job, unless you're on like a long-term series and you know that you've been running
union?
Right,
well, SAG is so expensive to get into. Trust me, I looked into this because
but still, that's no guarantee of a job. That's just a guarantee that you have an opportunity.
You're better off being in a workers union than you are a actors union.
Well, no. SAG is pretty good if you are somebody who's working and you want the union jobs because they do pay more. However, when you have to pay the yearly dues of sometimes upwards of $5,000, it used to be $2,000, but you have to pay union dues of that, and you're not making anything. That's a lot. You're not getting those auditions or gigs or whatever it is. That's hard, but you do get, and you can't do non-union jobs. Once you get a SAG card, you can't do non-union. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Also, So I was gonna say, you were talking about Twitch going out and all that. I mean, they'll probably just blame millennials anyways. That's the reason.
Millennials fucked everything up.
Well,
you know what's funny? Okay,
they'll make the jump to YouTube. If they have followers, they'll make the jump to YouTube. That's just the way it is.
All right. And okay, this is the last thing I want to say. We're getting ready to switch up topics here. But I do want to say, even with what we're doing, right? First off, what you were talking about is, if YouTube changes policies, that shit happens all the time. There are many people in the history of YouTube who were doing successfully, and then algorithms changed, policies changed, and then they were no longer able in their format to make money the way that they did. I will say that I can't remember if it was Fours or Aubrey that made the comment about Google paying people or YouTube paying people. Keep this in mind. YouTube does not pay anybody shit. AdSense pays people shit. So YouTube has made this deal with all of these advertisers, and it's out of that pool of money that you're making money, and YouTube is making money from that as well. So you're both
and a lot of that
money.
has to do with that neutrality.
And keep in mind that all of the major businesses in the last 10 years that have been successful, I believe it absolutely blows my mind how our economy has changed. All of the most successful businesses don't own shit. Airbnb, they don't own a room. They rely on you to provide the rooms, right? Uber and Lyft, they don't own cars. They rely on you. YouTube, they don't own videos. They rely on you to upload videos. So TikTok, all of the content that's being made, all of the most money being made is being made off of business that basically doesn't create shit. They just are an outlet to their distributor. Exactly.
Their platform.
Exactly.
Right. And that's
which is why you need to go to Patreon, Kyber K Productions.
I mean, that's part of the problem in a way of this kind of trickle down thing as well, is that what they did is what trickle down did, and the corporations and all that. And the reason there's that changing atmosphere is because they put all of the pay onto us, like college, all of that. The same with Uber and Lyft. They tried to make it so that they would take some of that pay onto themselves, providing a card for their, since, it's a car driving service, or at least a way for people who do this can pay for their car's maintenance and pay, have those things put into the job so that they're not, because, if you're driving a car around all the time, it's going to break. Maintenance is that has to happen. And if they're putting all the pay onto them, not only is the pay pretty shitty because of the way they take the percentages get taken out, because I worked for Uber for a while, and it's kind of shitty.
I know
that's why they're trying to do that. And then
I know a couple of people that's their entire income comes by either doing Lyft or Uber or even Instacart or some of the Grubhub. There are many people, and I know people that they swear by it as a second income. It is the world that we are living in. So it's hard to say long-term loyalty or job jumping. I don't know. I reward my long-term people, but I want to tell a story
actually about long-term loyalty.
All right.
Someone talked about their dad, and so this brought up something for me. So my grandfather worked at a piano store. My grandfather sold pianos and other. He was a fantastic player. He played the organ and the piano, and he wrote songs. And he was actually in World War II. He was part of the band, and so he worked at this. He worked at the store, this piano store, selling pianos for a long time, for like 25, 30 years. Right before he was supposed to retire and get a pension, they fired him. So he lost everything. Basically, they let him go. They laid him off for nothing.
Very common story.
For no reason. And you know what he got? He got a gold-plated watch. Thanks for your service. Bye. And he basically got fucked out of all of his benefits and everything that he had worked 35 years for. So long-term loyalty
does not necessarily exist.
Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll still come out and be taken care of by your company.
I tell my son that I can't predict the future. The future my parents told me was going to happen did not happen. The best I can tell my son is you've got to create something that is your own and get out there and, get it out to the world.
And all right, invest in yourself.
Speaking of which, don't forget to subscribe to Patreon.
Subscribe to Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or up to $50 if you want exclusive gifts. Right now, we have only one person at that $50 level, so that pretty much means that Graveyard is just going to get the special engraved, beautiful, one-of-a-kind saber, unless somebody else.
Graveyard posted in our chat for the Patreon. Graveyard, you're amazing. Just thank you.
I'm really excited. We have that interview with Graveyard on Sunday, so make sure to be here to check that out for their spooky podcast. Okay, let's get over to the next topic. I was kind of hoping more people would jump on, at least Dave, because
Anthony, my God, man.
Well, yeah, Anthony said he was sick tonight, so that he wasn't gonna. But this would have been a great one.
I was hoping Mike. I was hoping John would also Mike.
I know we have so many talented and cool people.
John, I was hoping John would also jump in. So yeah,
our Kyber Cave chat is full of so many freaking people, and there's 3 of us on the screen. Where the hell are you people tonight?
Where are you? Well, okay, we'll unleash the questions.
Hey, I did want to say really quickly, happy birthday to John Michaels.
He
just recently, 2 days ago? Was it 2 days ago he had a birthday?
And 2 beautiful singers. Saying to John this morning, which was great.
Oh yeah, that's today. Today is John's birthday.
Yes,
and we had 2 amazing impersonators also. Voice impersonators also give happy birthday. I loved it. I loved all of it.
I'm telling you, we've got so many cool and talented people in our crew. There's so many projects I want to do. So much exciting stuff. And that leads right into getting to know you. Getting to know all about you.
The King and I. Always a great segue using King and I. Fantastic.
This one I guess is gonna be kind of interesting. This is more, I guess, getting to know the KCAD crew, because just like I said, we all come from James says happy birthday, John. Dave is on his way, I heard. All right. I would love to get Dave in here. Dave is very interesting because it's funny, even Dave like self-deprecates like in a lot of our boards, because he's the only one that doesn't have like outside professions that or isn't known for things outside of here necessarily.
I'm not known for anything outside of here. I'm just a regular everyday.
Nobody's ever heard of Force Effects.
They haven't.
No one anywhere.
But Dave is someone that I personally have known since we opened Kyber Cave in our last location. So I've probably known Dave for about 2.5 years. Wow. Really, really solid guy. And the reason I brought Dave on, or I asked Dave to be a part of this, is because we used to Saber Battle all the time together. He was on our Saber Battle team. And I absolutely love that guy. But Dave and I have always been, he tends to be more conservative. So we've been on very opposite sides of conversations. But I always loved that I could have a conversation with him. And just because we didn't necessarily agree on, maybe the current cultural climate or politically about something didn't mean we couldn't get in the ring and cross swords and still have a good time as friends.
Or be on the show together and still be cool afterwards.
Exactly.
Honestly, he's somebody who I like having hard because the thing is he's also willing to be like, if it's a good enough argument, he's like, I'm going to think about this, and then he thinks about it, and that's what I like about Dave.
Freaking yeah, Dave's a champ.
He's amazing, and he does really important things. He takes care of a really awesome, cool 10-year-old Gabe.
Yes,
who's just fantastic, and he does a lot of construction, and he's very, very protective of his friends, and that's something that is, that I will always say about Dave. And he's a fantastic fighter. I enjoy crossing swords with him. I enjoy teaching him. I enjoy teasing him, but it's all in good fun.
And in fact, you guys are doing a special presentation. You're working on a special thing right now presentation we are doing in November in Merced for a film festival. Kyber Cave is hooking up with the Twilight Nights, and we are doing a film festival in Merced. And we'll be doing stage combat performances. And on the Kyber Cave side, it will be led by Miss Aubrey and Mr. David. So
yeah, we have the first 20-30 seconds already that I would say that we've got prepared already. We're still getting the choreography down and everything, but it looks pretty cool on film at least.
All right, it always.
I'm excited about it.
So as you can see already, there are a lot of us here that have lots of different talents and different things that we do.
Leah, happy birthday! Happy belated birthday! I'm guessing this is Janine. That's what I think. I saw earlier. This is Janina. Janina, happy birthday, dear.
Ooh, is it your birthday? Happy birthday! Wow, today's a popular day for birthdays.
5 days ago. No, she said 5 days ago. But happy belated birthday.
5 days ago. Well, happy belated birthday anyways. We weren't even on 5 days ago.
7 days ago.
So, where should we get started? What do you guys want to talk about? Getting to know us.
Well, you guys should post your guys' questions to us in the chat and just let us know what you want to know. Yeah, if there is anything
you want to know about any of us individually or as a group. Ooh, hey.
Speaking of,
well, would you look at that?
Well,
can you hear me?
Well. Yes, I can hear you just perfectly. In the house. Just about. It's fine.
Yeah, so check it out, guys. We're driving on Shasta right now. We heard.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. You're lost to the Matrix. There, mate.
We have lose us. Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing you now. Of course, when you're talking about not being able to hear you, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Right? Okay. We're on Shasta.
Okay, you're on Shasta.
You're on Shasta.
Was it in the closet with the pipe?
Was it Colonel Mustard? It's Colonel Mustard.
Yes.
With
the wrench
whatever, she's a sweet lady.
Distance learning. They went into the back rooms.
Everybody in the room. The sweet ones are the ones that you have to worry about.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So where are you guys heading off to?
Anyways.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to Anna Medford in Grants Pass, Oregon.
Okay. And why are you going there? The bane of every show, dead air. All right, well, we got Distance Nerding, our sister crew from Sacramento. It always feels weird saying sister crew since, they're all dudes. But that's just the terminology, right?
Guys should just pull over for a minute. Get a good signal to talk.
Oh,
I was gonna say, find a Dollar General you can roll into.
They're not likely to have Wi-Fi, dude.
Give it about a mile, they'll hit one.
Oh man, so funny.
So yeah, so I guess in getting to know us, we are kind of an eclectic crew. There is a question here for Aubrey about
Yes.
karaoke last week.
Oh
Where?
yeah, so I'm a KJ. I do karaoke in the northern, the southern Sacramento, northern almost.
Just
I've
tell them the
worked over in
cities.
Ileton. Yeah, Ileton,
You're in
Rio
2 cities
Vista.
right now, right?
Ileton, yes, I'm in Ileton and Rio Vista right now.
What nights do you do what?
Wednesdays, I work in Rio Vista at the Flamingo Lounge. And on Saturdays, I work at the Delta Queen. And I'm covering this Sunday at the Lighthouse in Ileton.
The Delta Queen isn't that Sacramento Old Town?
No, that's actually in Ileton.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad. Just bad service. Yeah, we'll catch you guys. Thank you for trying, guys.
Thank you for So
We might have to do this getting to know us again on a different night when we have different crew
more
back
people.
in, or we'll do a showcase or a focus on different people.
James, come on, ask questions, buddy.
How did all of you get into sabers making sounds and battles? Well, I think we should start with fours on that one.
Yes.
I need a minute. Van, tell your story. I need a minute.
Okay, so I got into sabers. Kyber Cave has been around for about almost 4.5 years now. About 5.5 years ago, I used to go out to the movie theaters with my son and his half brother who grew up with his father. So we would meet at the drive-in theaters, and between the movies, we would do lightsaber battles. And that was my first introduction to sabers. I was absolutely blown away. Then, like 6 months later, we went to an event called the world's largest lightsaber battle in Sacramento, and there was like 300 nerds in the park with all of these sabers, and I was like, dude, this is so cool. So my kid asked if we could do this back home. Said it's nothing but playing in the park. We made 12 ugly flyers, and our first event, like 30 people showed up. A month later, I bought like 20 Ultra Sabers and like a variety of crappy little play plastic sabers, and we had a store in downtown Fairfield. I really wish I could say there was a lot more thought and planning that had gone into like, oh, what would be the perfect business to start? Where can I? Hell, nope. It was just like, hey, this is fun, and people seem to like doing it. Maybe we should open a store. All right, cool. Maybe I'll show up sometime. Yay!
That'd be great, Gina.
All right, Forrest, what do you got?
So what am I answering here? It got noisy over here for a minute, as you can probably see.
Right here. How did you all get into sabers, making sounds or battles?
Oh, geez, I'm crow. This story. Actually, Van, do you remember when you had me on Saber Rattle for the first time? Do you remember that interview?
I mean, vaguely. Was there a specific thing you wanted to ask her?
No, I mean, I'm back when I was like 30 pounds heavier. No, I'll tell that. I'll tell that story again. I'll just give it the short version. So long ago, back when Walden Books and Books A Million were selling the episode 3 sabers, back when they were selling, I think they were either the Hasbros or the Master Replicas. Those were like on store shelves, like the only things you could get. And they were like $110, $120 a pop, right? And my buddy Matt and I, we were just looking for something better. Like, we were always curious if there was something better that you can get, something that will that won't freaking break, when you get to dueling. And we scoured the internet. Now, granted, y'all, this is like back in 2013-ish, right? And we hit Google, and the first places we found, shocker, were Ultra Sabers and Saber Forge, the very first 2 places. And we
the 2
went in there.
biggest known saber companies in the industry,
pretty much,
but also not the best reputations in the world.
Saber Forge has gotten better.
They've definitely gotten better.
They've gotten better. But we long story short, there we purchased from them, right? And they were good. Like, if you compared what they had to what you bought at Books A Million, it was leaps and bounds better. Yeah, we didn't pay $110. You know, I think Matt's first saber was like $380, and mine was like $320-ish.
But these were actually meant for fighting with. They weren't.
These were meant for dueling. Yes, and while I enjoyed the sounds that were on them, I figured, you know what, I can do better because I know how to edit audio. You know, so when I looked up on the Ultra Sabers website, you know, that there was a forum to follow, I went to that forum and I learned how to name the files and everything. And I already had a program I was using that I downloaded from college at the time. And I made my own sound font. And then within a couple of years, I was introduced to a gentleman who ran a different Saber company, and he introduced me to the entire Saber community, and where they were making much better, more high quality stuff. And I figured, you know what, if we're going to have higher quality stuff, we need to have higher quality sounds. And there were people who came before me who did it. But at the time there just weren't a lot of people making sound fonts. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to do it because I knew how to do it and I wanted to get good at it. And I did get good at it. And I mean, you know, I became Fonts by Fours. And then later on, I jumped from Saber Font and joined up with Repulse Collectibles, and I became Fours FX. And then I jumped from Repulse, and this was actually Repulse's idea. He wanted me to start my own business, and I did. And that's where I created Fours FX Saber Sound Designs LLC. And Saber Font was like, okay, you can have your own website. You want to list with us too? And I was like, sure, what the heck? So, I mean, I'm in 2 places now, and, you know, and it's been, I'm telling you, it's been a hell of a journey. I've made a lot of friends. Saberland brought me to you guys.
Right.
And unfortunately I've made some enemies. But it's what it is. But I mean, it's still, you know,
this is where the fun begins. Ready when you are.
I mean, it's a blast.
Did you see David smile when he heard that particular font? I think probably out of all the films, that's probably David's favorite scene is when the blue saber sparks up.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, that's
absolutely
that's me in a nutshell. That and well, yeah, for that question, yeah, that's me.
So trippy, your face is like fading into your background.
That's because I've got the green.
Oh,
that's green.
That's green.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. The
light, that's really cool.
It's looking like white on the screen. What did you nerd out on as a child? What are you nerding out on today? I love distance nerding.
Oh wow, are we? I know we're gonna get to all of your questions. Thanks, James. Yeah. So I guess should I go next?
Yeah.
So I've been fighting, practically learning how to fight with swords since 2003. So my teacher is actually the one who got me into doing sabers, particularly Henry, who's my mentor and teacher.
Which we oddly had a strange connection through, because I think I met you separately, and then we found out that we both knew Henry because Henry was one of my employees' uncle.
Yeah, you met me through Aaron, I believe, actually.
Right, I think Aaron brought you into Kyber Cave.
Yes, and then yeah. So yeah, but I've been fighting for about that long. In 2019, yeah, I actually was part of a tournament, a lightsaber tournament, and then I came and worked for you guys. But yeah, so I've been doing it for like almost 20 years, basically. I've been fighting, not necessarily lightsaber, but more of like practical use of self-defense using weapons.
Right.
It's a martial art. It's like a mixed martial art.
But not only do you do swords, you do music, you do acting, you do all kinds of stuff.
I do all. Yeah, if you want to know all those things, you can ask those questions. This is the time to know about that.
Seriously. We haven't even done the intros yet. Like, we haven't even done the whole, you know, hi, this is me and this is who I am and this is what I do.
No. This is who I am, and this is what I do. So yeah, so there was a question.
What does he do?
A question earlier that James had asked about how we all got together and how this all started. As for this show and how we in this group, you'll also see Anthony or Rubik's Q Arcana is typically here. Mezzo is kind of behind the scenes as a director. John Michaels often pops in. Who else am I missing? Who else
Because
am
he's
I missing?
awesome.
Huh?
Because
Am
he's
I missing
awesome.
But yeah,
Well,
we have if you've seen our Kyber Cave After Dark message board, there's like 15 different people on there, and there seems to be roughly about 7 people that regularly come on this show. Some people aren't available every Friday night. Anthony was sick last week and is still sick this week.
Anthony,
but
get better. We miss you.
all of these people have come through are people that I kind of thought would be interesting or would thought, had such, interesting backgrounds or personalities that they could contribute to a variety of different topics, not just talking about sabers. I never wanted this show to be just about lightsabers or just about nerding out. I wanted it to be something where the different topics would be things that people in the audience were thinking about, things that were affecting their lives as well. And really, Dark Wolf Sabers got my hat. This show
got
really
the one I won last week too.
Yeah.
Johnny, where the hell's my hat?
Thank you for the win. I totally love this hat
Wolf
too.
Paw.
That's funny.
So all of these people are to me, they're very interesting. And I thought bringing them together and having a forum. And really for me, I know we need to do a little bit better job of this, but it's really about the comments. It's about you, the audience, and being able to interact with you and knowing that you guys as human beings are experiencing the same things we're experiencing, whether it's frustrations and things that are happening in the culture, or maybe our favorite movie that's out there right now. We're all just people, and I love hanging out with you guys. So I brought all these collective minds in because they're just all fucking fantastic people.
Speaking of which, we have Dave in the chat, so we should.
I was going to say, how's this get to know us thing been working? I obviously came in here really late. It's been a long day, and went and did something with my son. And just got home.
You just came in just as we were getting in here, so. But yeah, so how did you get to Sabers there, Dave?
How did I get into Sabers?
Yes, that was the first question that was sparked all this.
First big question. Mm-hmm.
I think first time I got interested in swordplay was first time I saw a lightsaber in Star Wars. And then I got into martial arts, and weapons was something that I seemed to have a pretty good natural talent for. So I just continued and grew out of it for a little while, and then met a wonderful group of people. Some of those are present here, and got really deep back into it.
All right. And now you're like the baller fighter. You and Aaron are like the two tough hombres at the when Kyber Cave was still doing weekly fights.
I hit harder.
You hurt to fight,
but Aaron's really good. Aaron's really good. Aubrey's really good. You're pretty good too, man. And we've had some pretty good duels between the two of us as well.
Right. I would really love to get. I've always wanted to have some formal. I mean, we had the dojo, but I never had anybody that could give me actual, sword teaching and classes and stuff like that on a regular and consistent basis. I would really love to get that going, and I would love to get the fight team going again. I've always said that I would love for Kyber Cave to sponsor a fight team to just go places and start whooping people's asses. Like in a tournament, not just random people on the street.
If we could have cut loose a couple of years ago there in Los Angeles without them, doing their little weird thing that they were doing. Remember? Yes. If the saber's making a whooshing sound, you're hitting too hard. Are you fucking kidding me?
This is why they have things called armor and protection.
It's kind of funny. It's like
these
we're
guys
so-
were
Dodge.
weak. These guys were weak.
we were
Wow.
so
When I was done with
isolated.
the tournament, when I was done with the tournament in 2019, I had a bruise that was from here all the way to here, and I was like, "I'm showing this shit off. This is amazing."
I know,
Dollar
right?
star.
David will take
Yeah.
his shirt off and shit to fight.
Oh man,
he
I've
wants
come
you
out
to
of there
see
with
the bruises.
I've
dude.
come out of there with bruised ribs and big old welts, and I'm going, yeah, bring it. Come on,
It's so
is that all you
funny
can do?
because
They
we
go,
were
"Oh,
so
shit."
isolated in Fairfield. We only knew about fighting ourselves, right? So we had no idea that once we left our area that we were actually like going at it a lot harder than some of these people were used to. But that was just kind of what we became accustomed to, was beating the shit out of each other and just manning up basically.
Hey, it really helps if you're not afraid to take a hit. You're more likely to get into it. If you're
got
constantly
so many
worried about
questions.
what's that?
So we have so many questions by James. James, I'm loving these questions. You keep them coming. We're just trying to get to them.
Oh yeah, so we're supposed to be being asked questions. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
asked for, but then we started kind of just talking about ourselves, and then the questions started coming in. Should we actually get to some of these questions? Like, do
Let's
this?
get
Like,
to some of these questions because they're
Okay.
fun.
okay,
These
where?
look really fun. We should start
me-
with the 10-hour flight question because that was the second one that came in.
All right, I'm gonna let you start with that one, Aubrey.
J.R.R. Tolkien
10-hour
or
flight.
Leonard Nimoy. I would love to talk with Leonard Nimoy too. I think he's amazing. But yeah, Tolkien. I would love to have a conversation with Tolkien. There's quite a few actually historical figures I would love to have a conversation with that are both alive and dead that are very interesting. But probably, Tolkien is very high on my list. So
Right.
yeah, that was an easy question. I was thinking about that. I'm like, Tolkien, definitely Tolkien.
Forrest, what do you
Go
think?
ahead.
Who would you want to spend a 10-hour flight with, living or dead?
Oh, geez Louise. Obscure answer. Her name is Lisa Ortiz. She was a voice actress long ago. Now she's a producer. She is the leading voice acting producer for Pokemon. But back in the day, she was actually on it, and she did a very, very, very popular anime called The Slayers, which is one of my very favorites of all time.
Mhm.
And Lisa is just a magnificent woman, and her voice is unforgettable. And she's one of the reasons.
Lena?
Huh?
Did she play Lena?
She played Lena.
Okay, that's why I was like, that name is so familiar.
And I met Gowry, and I met Amelia. So it's nuts. And she's somebody I've always wanted to meet, and I could talk with her. And now and today I would want to talk with her today because I would want to know since Slayers what she's been doing, what the field's been like. I would want to ask her questions like, are you picking people up off of YouTube and TikTok, or are you taking them the traditional audition way? So yeah, it'd be Lisa Ortiz hands down. It's because I'm in love with voice acting. I love voice acting. I haven't done a single voice on the show yet, but I love voice acting so much.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, Forrest. We will get there. Don't worry, buddy.
Anyone with you, Dave?
It would honestly depend on the subject that we're having conversations about. I think if I just picked one person, well, I'd like to have a conversation with Jim Morrison on a 10-hour flight, but would he be awake for the whole time?
That's pretty good.
Actually, you know who would be really fun to have a conversation with would be George Carlin.
Yes.
Fun to talk to. Yeah.
So that'd be my pick for contemporary deceased. I think for further back, Ragnar Lothbrok.
I have no idea who.
No,
that is.
I don't speak Norse. He was a Viking king.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had thought like someone like Napoleon or one of these great like conquerors of their day would be somebody interesting to talk to.
But okay, so those are the two dead people. As far as people living, I'd like to sit down and have a 10-hour conversation with Keanu Reeves.
Wow,
that'd be fun. Mine would probably be Johnny Depp because I would love to have a conversation with him.
I would have to
That'd be
say
a good one,
Morgan
too.
Freeman. Sorry.
Oh,
Mine
Morgan
would be-
Freeman's great. I love her. Hey, he's in one of my favorite movies of all time.
See, that's what I was saying. It would all depend on what we're talking
It's
about.
hard.
There's some people I'd like to have conversations with about certain things. There's other people I'd like to have conversations about with other things.
There's just
Mine-
something about that
Mine
voice
is going to be
that
the obvious George Lucas.
I could listen to that voice for about 10 hours.
And then
And
he
then
did it.
some.
Oh my
He
god.
busted
God,
into
now you
his
have to do-
voice of
It would
Morgan
be
Freeman.
it would be the most stimulating conversation that four
Now-
of us
now
would
you just gotta-
ever have.
Oh my god. Forrest,
Hey, look
now
at-
you have to say that your temperament is as warm as the weather now.
Johnny
Temperament
Collado
is
over
just-
at Dark Wolf said, "I want to do Hangover 4 with Forrest, Van, me, and Aubrey."
that'd be
No, Afri is a
Oh,
member of the
Afri.
Saber community.
Oh, I'm just customarily cut out of that one, huh?
No,
no,
well,
same
it's
here,
Afri.
it's
I
okay.
had the wrong name. I don't know who Afri was. That's my bad. Jim Carrey. Ooh, Jim Carrey. That would be an interesting
He
person,
would be really interesting.
especially because like at the time when he got his start on In Living Color, he was kind of an unknown stage comedian. He was living out of his car at the time that happened. And
Then
to
he
blow
became
up,
a very known stage comedian.
right.
Quickly.
Yeah, so Jim Carrey definitely would be a fun one.
Robin
As a
Williams.
horror movie fan, I'd ask, what was your favorite scary movie?
Wait, Van, we got so many other questions that are
There's
still
I
unanswered
can't
that
keep
we
up with
can
all this
do.
shit.
Hold on.
Hey,
Well,
we can run the show over tonight.
What if
ran
we
the
just
last
have? What if
damn
we have?
subject
What if
over.
we directed people to ask us questions individually, and then we can roll through them
No,
that way?
we're doing really great.
Okay.
All you have to do is just go look up. There's just, I'm looking right now at 9:36 p.m.
Johnny, don't even make me do it.
What
Okay.
do what?
Like, you know, I'm sure, James, this was a light question. What makes a perfect taco? That's a cute, funny light
What
question.
makes a perfect taco? Hey, I did want to say to
Beef.
Graveyard. Graveyard had this one comment. My group of friends went from D&D to backyard wrestling. That was a weird shift. When I started my very first television show, I remember me and my boy, we were getting high one night and we were flipping through the channels and we were like, dude, there's nothing on TV. And then like we were like, dude, you know what'd be dope is if we could see a show about local artists, like local musicians and local bands and stuff. So we decided to start our own TV show. So it started on public access.
So like Wayne's World.
Basically, yeah. Except
Oh
for
my
we were
God.
going around videotaping, poets and musicians and actors and shit like
That's
that.
fun.
Anyways, the guy that I worked on my very first show that actually went out, we were in 180,000 homes from Roseville to Davis. He started in a backyard wrestling show. So him and his buddies were beating the shit out of each other in their backyards doing wrestling. So I kind of have a bit of a, and the show that we're going to this weekend, the con we're doing this weekend is going to be wrestlers and stuff too. So it's always fun. It's always interesting.
That gives me an idea for a new sport. How about full contact golf? Anybody with me?
Yikes.
I'm
Golf
getting 10 cup
sabering.
vibes right there. That's getting totally
Give me
10
that.
cup vibes.
Aubrey,
Happy
Can
Gilmore.
you imagine
What?
a Saber
What?
interview with Medea?
I just wanted to show you my son's Sailor Moon ramen bowl
No.
because I knew you'd freak out over it.
好きですよ。
Here you go, son.
かわいいね。
Wow. And speaking of which, Aubrey also does cosplay. In fact, don't let me forget to talk to you, Aubrey. Somebody wants to hire a Sailor Moon cosplayer for a birthday party.
Hex
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Hell yeah. はい、と聖書のセーラーピソージ戦士、セーラームーン、
Yeah,
依頼
all that
クリコーヘ、アシャキャ、 that's for you. アシャキャ。
So yeah, let's see if I can find some of these. What was one of your guys' favorite scary movies? We'll start there and we'll go back up.
Ooh.
I've seen those ramen bowls.
The
Oh,
Exorcist.
there's something.
Hmm.
The Exorcist.
That's
definitely
the
a
only
classic.
movie that ever really freaked me out. Honestly, I mean, it doesn't look so much scare me to watch it now, but man, the first time I saw it, I was watching it. I was watching it like that on my hand. I was laid down on the couch, and my arm went to sleep
Mhm.
and went numb. I freaked out. I thought my hand was getting possessed.
Oh my god, so
Yeah, I
funny.
think it's
No,
funny when
and that was before I knew the advantage of having a numb hand.
wow. I'm gonna wait. This is guy, Johnny. The response is wife in the morning.
Oh
I'm a
god.
little worried that the question is what's your favorite scary movie? Yeah,
Worried. That's worrisome.
I'm wanting to know what that wife in the morning response is to. Is it to the scary movie question?
Wife after work.
Yeah. Forrest, what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite scary movie?
I do. And these are recent, but I loved the new It movies. They were great.
Mm,
They were
haven't seen 'em.
fantastic. Oh gosh, first of all, they have just the right amount of humor in them, but the effects weren't cheesy. Like it was they were pretty gruesome.
Right.
So, but I mean, the story's phenomenal. The acting was really good. They had just the right amount of jump scares. Pennywise was pretty freaking freaky.
Right.
And you know, it's always been a story that I have just enjoyed. I watched the old ones with Tim Curry, which I wish he would have been able to play Pennywise, but this new guy they got was great. I read the book cover to cover, all 2,000 pages of it, which was a nuts read.
Right.
Oh yeah, it took me 2 weeks to finish it.
Yeah,
Whee!
same. Yeah, 2.5 weeks or so. But yeah, it is up there. It's up there.
I would say
Actually-
it took me 2 weeks to read it. It took me 2 months to read
It's also
the
a classic
Silmarillion. And I was reading them at the same time. So I should show you.
The Dollar Baby from Stephen King made some awful movies from 82 to 2015. I'm
Actually,
not sure.
I want to change.
Yeah.
I was going to say I want to change my answer. Maybe we read the question wrong. My favorite scary movie, the first one, because all the sequels were crap.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't like the little
Exorcist
hand?
3 is fantastic. Exorcist 3 is great. Shush. That's actually
No, he was
really
talking
good
about the
movie.
specifically scary movie. The scary movie, scary movie.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds like Exorcist 3 is fantastic. It's probably my favorite of the Exorcist series.
No, I was
I
just,
just,
being
What
oh,
other
I just
questions do
watched
we
it
got?
recently.
By the
Hold
rights
on,
to
wait.
one
I
dollar.
didn't skip. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
No,
That's the one
that
I know
wasn't
my
me.
favorite
Don't.
scary movie.
No,
I
Go ahead.
I'm scrolling back up because I want to see what questions we have. I didn't say change the
right.
subject.
Go ahead, Aubrey.
No, it's all good. It's fine. It's fine.
No, I don't. You know what? You did this shit to me last time, and that wasn't even my fault. That was Forrest. So answer the goddamn question while we try to find some more of these.
Prince of Darkness is probably my favorite.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know. There's The Thing as well. The Thing is really good. The both of those kind of fucked me up in the head. And then there's also the Stepford Wives. Oh my god, the original
Can you-
1970s, not the new one.
Are
1971.
you guys-
Prince of Darkness, Ozzy.
freaked me
Yeah.
the fuck out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What
Prince
about,
of
like, are
Darkness
you guys-
fucked me up for a
okay,
while.
I consider it different, but like, what about gory movies? Do you think those are different? Like say Pinhead, like the Pinhead movies. What were those? The
Hellraiser. I was just talking about Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, you were
Hellraiser.
just talking exactly. But those have more of a gory context, right? That's
You know,
The
It's
fact that you
interesting
didn't
'cause-
say Evil Dead first is kind of insulting. I mean,
I'm
That's a
sorry.
freaking
Evil Dead. I
classic.
know. Evil
That's
Dead.
true.
Well, you know, it's funny because I've seen so many horror movies. It's hard because there's almost categories. So Freddy Krueger was my first scary movie, like the first scary movie that I had that really affected me, and I was probably about 6 when I watched it.
Mhm.
That affected me a lot as a kid. But yeah. I mean, gore. I think Hellraiser, the first one, is actually almost like an art film. It's really beautiful. I just watched it like in a week and a half. And it was actually distracting, like how artistic some of the shots were, like, and the like listening from the script and to the act, like the acting has moments of like where it's kind of wouldn't pan out. But the script is fantastic. The script, like nothing is left to like just throw away. Like I don't think there are any throwaway lines in there. It's fantastically done. It's cohesive. And going back to Evil Dead, it also does claymation, but the practical effects of the claymation that they do in Hellraiser is so good that it still holds up to so much of the CGI we're having today. And I would say that Evil Dead is similar in that. I think the claymation they use is really, really good.
There was really claymation in Hellraiser?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I don't remember.
Wow. Graveyard said I just watched all 11 Hellraiser movies this week for a 2-part podcast. So if you want to catch up on the Hellraiser series, hey, really quick, Graveyard, for our friends that are watching this show that may or may not watch Saber Rattle, can you throw up on the screen where people can find your podcast if they want to hear spooky stuff? Yeah,
hey, don't throw up on the screen.
Yeah, don't throw up on the screen. Put up on the screen.
Graveyard, which one in your opinion is the best though? The Hellraisers. Which one was the best? Because I watched 2 and 3 and I kept thinking they were amazing, and then we watched them and I'm like, wait, the second one, I'm like, I completely forgot about this movie. This isn't the one I saw. And then the third one, I was like, why did I think this was beautiful? This was great.
Oh my God, the second one because the chick with no skin was hot.
I mean, again, like as I listed it, as I was talking, because I talked about in our chat, how like the practical effects are really good in the second one because it's just zany and crazy and like creatively, like even though it's a failure of a movie, I don't think it's like it's not as bad as some of the movies I've seen. Right. It's just it's weirdly, it's just very creative. So you can't like just be like, oh, you can't just like shove it to the side. You're like, oh, this is kind of like Freddy Krueger. This is like some of Freddy Krueger's like more terrible sequels.
I would have to say, and I would be interested in Graveyard's opinion since Graveyard is the horror expert around here. But I would have to say, I feel like the 80s were some of the best horror movies because they had like a lot of these people were like directors. John Carpenter's a good example. Directors, the first Halloween, I remember watching a documentary about that. They had no fucking budget. And so they weren't trying to make a really, high, elaborate, creative movie. And from what I understand, especially in the 80s, if you didn't have a lot of money, horror movies were some of the easier movies to make. I don't know why in particular horror movies, probably because they didn't use a lot of CGI. It was all practical effect. But I also feel like, and maybe it's because they didn't have a budget and they had to be more creative, but the 80s is when you saw, Jaws came out of the 80s, the first couple Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare Before Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that was the glory time of the horror movies.
Well, what's also awesome about those horror films is that for as much gore and exploitative things they had, they also really really push progressivism on women. Like if you notice, like the main characters are usually women, and those are the ones that are always surviving till the end, and they also have their own agency. So the horror genre actually pushed women's progressiveness, women's rights, and the idea completely forward. Like they really were progressive on that. I mean, you have Alien, which is fantastic. That's another one of my favorite movies. I think Alien. Right. I want to do a role like Ripley. I would love to play a role like Ellen Ripley.
Now, is Alien a horror movie or is that a sci-fi movie?
Both.
It's both.
Horror sci-fi.
Horror sci-fi. Janinia says The Relic. I have not seen The Relic.
Haven't seen The Relic.
I have not. Yeah, so I don't have a lot of input about that. But yeah, I feel like with the 80s movies, sci-fi first is what Graveyard is saying for that. Yeah. Aliens is another one of those movies, kind of like Jaws. And a lot of people have been comparing Nope, the latest Jordan Peele movie. I don't know if you saw that, but a lot of people have been comparing Nope to Jaws and Aliens, in that they were some of the scary movies where it was more scary not to see the monster than it was to see the monster, right? Jaws was classically because they kept having mistakes with the shark. They couldn't get it to work right. And so they had to do a lot of creative editing. but a lot of times that's where you're Blair Witch Project. That was another movie where you don't see the monster until
Cloverfield. But this is my experience of both Blair Witch and Cloverfield. Oh my god, don't throw up, don't throw up, don't throw up. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, don't throw up. That's my experience with both of those movies.
right.
But what I was going to say was, I feel the same way about The Thing. The Thing is also one of those where you don't actually ever really see the monster in its form. And it's actually a remake. There was a movie, The Thing, in the 1950s.
Right.
And John Carpenter didn't want to see another man in a spacesuit.
I wanted to ask Graveyard. I'm sorry to keep going back to Graveyard, but Graveyard had this comment, the Apocalypse trilogy from Carpenter. I would guess that The Thing is one of those. What are the 3 movies that are in
Escape from New York?
Huh?
Escape from New York.
Okay. Escape from LA?
And Escape from LA. I would guess are part of the trilogy of the Apocalypse trilogy. Graveyard, am I right? Am I right? Are those...
So which one's the third one then?
He's saying The Thing. I don't think The Thing is Apocalypse. I mean, even though it ends on the downer that it does.
Post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
What are the 3? Maybe Graveyard can help us out with that and let us know what are the 3 apocalypse movies that you were referring to from Carpenter, because Carpenter is a great director.
I mean, Prince of Darkness could be considered apocalyptic. I would say that is something. I love John Carpenter. I idolize that man. He's amazing. He does all of his own composition work. He does his own directing, his writing. Producing. He is like this one-man band of stuff and of like making these incredible movies. And he's also really progressive.
This is going to be a deep cut. I'm pretty sure nobody on here is going to know what I'm talking about. Does anybody remember a movie called Saturday the 14th?
No.
Yes, I do.
Do you actually? Do you really?
I actually remember that movie.
It was a parody in the 80s of like all the slasher films.
That's
but
funny.
It was, instead of Friday the 13th, it was Saturday the 14th. And I can't even remember the premise of the movie, but I just remember it being one of the first parodies that I had ever seen on the slasher movies.
I wasn't even thinking of Mouth of Madness because that came out in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
With Sam Neill. Oh, that's a great movie.
Ooh, we might have to do a watch through with those 3. The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and Mouth of Madness.
Interesting, because I would have thought that it would have been Escape from LA and New York. Escape from New York. And
so we've gone from Get to Know Us to Get to Know Horror.
Well, I mean, sorry, we can move on from the question. It's just.
Yeah, we can move on.
Bring more.
Well,
bring on the questions.
There's a question we didn't hit, and it was James's. So,
which one was it? Tell me, and I'll throw it up.
Okay, so back up here. What is something you've been scared to try but secretly want to try?
Oh, that's a great question, James. James, you're awesome.
I think James must have like a little fucking book or something of like party questions. It's questions to ask people when you go to a party.
Which means he'd be
icebreakers. Okay, well, go ahead. Somebody start there while I try to find that question.
Professionally auditioning for a voice.
That's actually a really.
Wait, go.
You'll get there.
Wait, what did you say?
I believe
Aaron?
it.
Auditioning for a professional voiceover role, be it an anime character, a radio spot, something.
That is your fear?
Yeah.
There we go.
I love it, but I'm scared to do it.
Dave, what about you? What's something that you want to try, but you're kind of scared to try?
Honestly, I can't really think of anything because there's very little that actually scares me. If I want to try something and I have the means to do it, I'll just do it.
Okay.
I can't. I mean, I'm serious. I honestly can't think of anything that I'm afraid to try that I want to try.
Mm-hmm. Aubrey, what about you?
If I'm scared of, I'm going to do it. Not really scared of much. I got a tattoo. I was actually, I'm actually terrified of needles, so I went and got a tattoo. That was something that I did that I've always actually wanted, but I was really scared to do a long time because needles terrify me. But now they don't matter. Now it's whatever because I did it. think about this because I'm one of those people that jump in first. Yeah, especially if it scares me, I'm gonna do it. I mean, skydiving would be fun. This is a hard one because I'm like, I'm scared. I'm gonna do it. That's generally how that works.
You know where I personally have fear, I guess most, but I don't really know of like Okay, I have fear in public groups, like going to parties where I don't really know people. I tend to kind of sit by myself or something. I'm not as out adventurous, and I'm not the guy to be able to go and shake everybody's hand and make 20 new friends by the time I leave the party. I think that's where a lot of my fears come in.
Okay.
You know what it is? This may sound really weird, but I have this other thing too. Wow, this is about to turn into therapy and shit. I have this thing, and you guys may notice it on the KCAD board, but when things aren't really going well in my life, I hide away. I don't like to talk to people. I've always had this thing in my head where it's almost like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I shut the fuck up. And I literally, if I don't have anything good to tell you about my life or anything that I'm proud of or working towards, I almost sometimes feel like I'm not good enough.
Yeah, but Dave is our onboard therapist. He's awesome about bringing you up when you're down.
It's true.
Really? You think that?
Heck
they
yeah.
love me. They really love me.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, dude, David, we did a whole love session about you before you showed up.
Yeah, we were bragging on you and everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Get to know Dave while Dave's not here.
The show.
You'll have to go rewatch the beginning of the show.
You're welcome.
The best things. We were talking about you, but the best things.
Razzle dazzle at the bottom.
Okay.
Biggest fear.
Oh,
Ray and Van get stuck working at Hallmark again.
That's dude. That chick. She is if you've ever heard about best friend coworkers, dude. She and I used to oh my god, we used to have so much fun at work. I love you so much, Sally. Good luck with your X-ray tests this week.
Dude, James and Graveyard are just really giving it up on the questions. They're great.
For real.
I know.
Do we have questions for each other? That's something I didn't consider.
Wait, what?
Do we have questions for each other?
Do we?
Do we? There's one about Graveyard. Did one about the dream job, but I don't know.
Sounds like you have a question then there for us.
Yeah, it sounds like you're leading.
Yours is the question, man. This is what I love.
I am, aren't I? Oh,
you are. That's what I love about you.
I love you, Sally.
I adore about you. I love your questions.
Jeez,
all right, go ahead.
No, I brought it up. Honestly, I didn't think of one. Jeez Louise.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, if you're going to bring something up like that, you better have something.
I know. I'm not prepared, which is
don't feel like you're on the spot or anything, but you're on the spot.
I mean, if I were gonna ask any crazy question, I guess, Dave, why is Attack of the Clones your favorite movie?
Oh God, why? Why did you bring this up? Why did you bring this up for us? It was so good.
Shit is about to go down.
Because it bothers Aubrey. Actually, the reason I like Attack of the Clones so much, I know that they have way too much CGI in it, and I know there's some really cringy dialogue in it, but I really like the way it starts to kick off the Clone Wars, because the Clone Wars series is a fucking awesome series.
Yeah, and Tales of the Jedi is coming pretty soon, so they're gonna go even deeper.
And it really showcased Obi-Wan more, and I'm a big Obi-Wan fan.
Obi-Wan.
Hello.
Right.
It's awful. It is the worst. Literally the worst.
I agree with Say Wong. It was not that bad. You know what? In retrospect, all of them, there's so much can be done, and some people complain about the politics and stuff, but that's what fucking Star Wars
people
is.
Complain about the.
That's what Star Wars is, man. It's the rebellion, dude. It's all about the politics of it. I absolutely loved it, and a lot of people shit on Phantom Menace, but I love Phantom Menace just for that world building that he had to do. And come on, we got to see Baby Greedo, or allegedly.
Toddler Greedo. No, it was Greedo. Was it?
That's
confirmed. It's confirmed. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay. Woo. Yeah, no, I just, oh my God.
The Last
Thank you,
Jedi
JJ,
was
for
the worst
fixing
one.
Oh God,
that's
no, what? Okay.
that would be
I
my
piss
last.
all over Last Jedi.
Yeah, it was a beautifully filmed. It was a very artsy film, but that's not what I'm looking for from Star Wars.
I will agree with you that it is an artsy film, but I mean, if you go into anything that's a deeper dive, you're like, none of this shit makes sense. That I don't know, and it completely undoes the Return of the Jedi. So.
One thing I especially
Okay.
didn't like about The Last Jedi, since we're on the topic of it, is when they're supposed to be there in Canto Bight trying to get a code breaker, and they're sitting there on a balcony having a little conversation like, the rest of their rebellion isn't about to be shot out of
Right,
interstellar
and they
space.
only have like 16 hours or something like that. It's not like,
And they're just kind of chilling there. Go ahead, Gabriel, my son. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's oh
But
God.
they're sitting there on the railing. They're, Finn's leaning over and he's talking to Rose, and they're just having a sweet little heart to heart there about the animal cruelty, which, I think that, where's the sense of urgency?
There's
Anyways,
just
I've said my piece.
I think that is Last Jedi. Okay, that's not Rise of Skywalker. That's Last Jedi.
yeah, but hey, remember those space
I
horses saved the
like
day in
Rise of Skywalker, but
in Rise of Skywalker.
Let's not get into this movie. Let's not get into these movies.
Yeah, how do we even get into fucking all of this shit, anyways?
Because I asked
of
David.
Attack
and that's why.
of the Clones.
Oh,
I was like,
exactly.
we were doing so well. We were doing so well, guys.
Well, we
Oh
could
my
round
God.
robin it since I asked Dave a question. Now Dave has to choose somebody to ask a question of.
Oh, no.
And no, Dave, you're not allowed to ask me to say the F word on Kyber Cave. So that's not, it ain't happening. Pick somebody else.
Yeah, we already
Hey,
got
Aubrey.
to hear him.
Aubrey, tell me
Yes.
what it is about Attack of the Clones that you dislike so much.
Wow. Fuck.
This isn't that hard.
Cruelty.
It's a badly made movie.
Specifics.
Everything's soft and smooth.
Everything sucks. Yeah, it's awful. It's actually
It's
just an awful
coarse.
movie, like from
It's
like sad.
It's
It gets
everywhere.
from the delivery of the lines, the overuse of CGI, which does nothing for the actors, the poor dialogue, the badly written story. Just oh my God.
And
But see,
Anakin's
okay, here's the thing, though.
Whiny self.
I feel like you
And
have
I'm
to
sorry,
take
Hayden
it.
Christensen is so bad. It's just so bad. It's a failure on all. It's a failure on multiple fronts. I can't.
Dude. Without Attack of the Clones, you wouldn't have a lot of the movies that you have now, dude. Without George Lucas's constant trying to elevate because wasn't Attack of the Clones the first movie that was completely in camera? The first
What do you mean
all
completely
digital
in camera?
of the Star Wars films.
B shot. We're just gonna keep going from A shot to B shot, A shot to B shot, because this is how we work. This is filmmaking. Everyone, A shot to B shot. We're just gonna have someone like say something, and then it's gonna go to this other one to say something else, and then that's Attack of the Clones. It's fucking awful. It's fucking awful. It's an awful. This is what I'll say is the beauty of it is at least we have.
You're just hating because you don't like floating mangoes. That's all.
Apples.
I thought it was a peach.
No, it was a pear. It was a pear.
Oh, it was. I think it was a pear.
Oh, it's a pear.
Oh my God! Just
Bloody pear guy.
Aubrey, ask somebody a question.
May the force be with me on this. Could I think of something that has to do with this, not regarding the fucking tech?
Good.
Christopher Lee was a good Jedi. I'm super excited for the Tales of the Jedi.
Christopher Lee, dude. I'll tell you what. While she's thinking of a question, I really enjoyed him as Count Dooku. He captured that character, and Christopher Lee has, first of all, he's got a phenomenal voice. I loved him as Dooku. I loved him as Sauron. Just phenomenal guy.
Even with the script
and actually in Hollywood, I don't think there's anybody that has more film credit for sword experience than Christopher Lee. I think he has the most sword experience.
And during the filming of The Lord of the Rings, he sat down in an interview and he went off on this huge tangent about fencing and his sword experience, and people just sat down and listened to him. He would just talk and tell stories like a patriarch, and it was the coolest thing ever.
Christopher Lee was the lead singer of a heavy metal band.
Yeah, that's true. And he also played Van Helsing in The Hammer. Was it? No, it was Dracula. He played Dracula.
Yeah, that's Graveyard said he was the best Dracula.
I don't know. Gary Coleman, I thought was great.
Christopher Lee, man.
Okay, Say Wong says that Viggo Mortensen was the best Aragorn.
Richard Stevens was the best Aragorn. I don't give a shit what you say.
There's contempt.
John Hurt. He was a great Aragorn.
John Hurt actually did play. Actually, I would say that John Hurt did do an excellent voice for Aragorn, but I would say Richard Stevenson did the better one. But that's because I know about 1981's BBC production of Lord of the Rings, which I say everyone should watch because it's the best.
Richard Armitage was a good foreign.
Yes, I'm not a Lord of the Rings person. So I have not.
Richard. He also did a bunch of, if I'm right, he did a bunch of translations, I thought, as well. Like he did a version of the Odyssey and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Did you
I might be wrong though. In college. No, I did not. My brain is blank right now. I'm sorry. I got overloaded. My positronic brain is not working very well right now. Sorry.
All right, so then I'll shoot one over to Van. So Van, actually, I'll ask Van and I'll ask the entire comment section. How about I'll ask all of you. So, how serious and how interested is everybody in doing a interactive experience, whether it be an interactive game or getting involved, like Van had mentioned, like a digital escape room, or when one of my gaming sessions, we do an interactive, like a Telltale game, or
where we have basically you will be the controller, you'll be playing. Correct. And then there'll be a bunch of us on the side, and it'll say, A, go left, B, go right, and we can all go left, right. It'll be like The Price is Right.
It would be just like this. The game would be on this on my screen right now. That you would see the game, and we would all be here, and then the comment section would be active. Or if we pre-record it, it would just be us. But then as we get through each game, like Life is Strange, it gives, we're having conversations, and then, the different choices of how we react, determines what's going to happen in the game. And what would be really cool about it is that every person here has a different personality. So, Dave would choose something different from what Van would choose, who would just choose something different from what I would choose, who would choose something probably
Dave would just tell you to blow them all up.
Probably.
Like God sort them out.
But I mean, once Mezzo and I figure out how to get all of this on the screen and us on the screen and everybody can see the video and hear the audio, would everybody be interested in making that happen?
Dude, I've been telling you, I want this to happen.
Like, I want to hear from the comments section.
Kyber Cave, choose your own adventure.
Ooh.
Kyber Cave gaming. Kyber Cave interactive gaming.
I'm digging it.
James, now you're just being a dick. Now you're just being a dick. You're saying this on purpose.
Thank you, James.
Now you're trolling.
Thank you.
You are trolling so hard.
Yeah, and I would love to get D in and on some stuff too. Because I feel like Distance Nerding has a lot to offer. They have a lot going on over there, and I love it when they can contribute and add to what we're doing as well. Yeah, I'm all for it, dude. I feel like
to the dark side, man.
I just want to build up the channel with more different types of content. We've been talking. I'm dying for Aubrey's talking about. We were talking about a D&D type playthrough show. I want to do a music type show, kind of a DJ with lightsaber battles happening from around the country. There are lots of ideas that we have, and we're gonna add content to our Patreon as well too. So,
anyways, yeah, Music history would be awesome. I do have a question for you all. So not Star Wars, but Star Trek. What is your guys' favorite Star Trek movie?
I honestly am not a Star Trek fan. Sorry.
Okay. It's all right.
Generations is the movie. Generations.
What?
Because Picard and Kirk together. Picard. Picard's my favorite. Picard.
Okay.
Hashtag Picard is my
Fair.
captain.
It's okay. We all know Cisco's my captain, so it's fine.
And Data is
I'd have to
hilarious.
say,
and
I have to say
Geordi,
it's a toss-up. Okay.
Geordi was my childhood in Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
LeVar Burton is
Reading
amazing.
Rainbow.
LeVar Burton is
yeah.
someone
James,
I
you're
would
not
take a
gonna
10-hour
turn me-
flight with.
You're not going to take me to the dark side, James. It's fine.
Say one.
I'd have to say it's a toss-up between Star Trek 2 and the Wrath of Khan and Into Darkness.
Ooh.
Nice. I mean, they're basically the same, but okay.
Deep Space Nine when the old cast comes back.
You're
Jesus
talking about
Christ.
Trials and Tribulations. That's pretty fun. That's a good one.
Trials and Tribulations. Oh, is that an
Trials
episode?
and Tribulations. Mm-hmm. It's an episode.
Oh, is that with the Tribbles?
Yes, when they go back. Yeah,
Oh.
awesome.
Look at
Nice.
Nerd.
Okay. It's okay.
Wait.
Deep Space Nine is fantastic. I am sad that they never got a movie. I wish they did before Renee.
Oh, look at that. He's got all kinds of badges and shit.
I know, you showed me these.
You need more pieces of flair.
And my
So-
Klingon.
You only have 17 pieces of flair.
Oh my god, that is that's great. Now I'm trying
That's
to think of what it's called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Office Space.
Office Space, thank you.
Classic
Sorry.
movie. That's my stapler. I believe that's my stapler.
I'm just
All I can think
yeah.
when you say that, all I can think about is Friday. Can y'all keep off the grass, please? Thank you.
I love Friday. That's a classic, dude.
never seen it.
All right, guys. Let's see where we at. Is there anything else we want to talk about? We are over.
We're
what we
over, but
typically
my
are.
God, man, this is fun.
Hey, let's
This-
keep going.
This
This,
has been fun. This has been great.
unless anyone has an objection, this is fun. Let's
I
roll
mean, if
with
they
it.
have objection, they just fucking turn off. That's all.
I mean, we either
I was
keep
talking
going or
about
we go
us,
into
not
after
them.
party mode. So it's what it
Stargate's
is.
pretty fantastic. I do love Stargate. I love the movie and the series. I think that they're both pretty fantastic.
You know something? No. I'm gonna go ahead and ask it because
Wow.
and Aubrey,
You
this is
go
not
right
me,
ahead and
this is
ask
not
it.
me picking on you. This is not me picking on you.
No,
But you and
okay.
I have never ever had this
Fine.
conversation ever. But I
Okay.
want to know. I want to know what is it about the Lord of the Rings movies that you kind of take issue with? Because, and I'm only asking it because it's something my wife and I really, really enjoy. I personally love the actors, and there are moments. Truthfully, there are moments in those movies that hit me so hard, and it's just that the way things are executed that I just don't forget them. Like Ian McKellen, for example. In my head, there will never be another Gandalf.
I don't have any problem with any of the actors. That's not my issue with it. The fact that you have someone who's directing it who did not read the books, who thumbed through them in high school, who didn't really, and that's not necessarily a problem, but when you have people that were on the set that knew and like that knew the books by heart, that, I mean, he shouldn't have been on the writing. He should not have been on the script, because he would literally go, no, I'm not doing it this way. And it's like, no, but this is true to this is the story. One, he didn't make it Frodo's story. He made it Aragorn's story, really. And once Aragorn got in the picture, it became all about Aragorn. And it's not, it's Frodo and Sam and the Hobbits' story, because that's who the people are. But there's just so many things from
I know there were characters left out, and I know there were
There
characters
were-
put in
that's-
place where they should not have been put in place.
But
There were
it's not
actually
even that. It's just the
full-on
whole
storylines
disrespect.
that were
There's
left out.
there's just the disrespect even to the main character, Frodo. I mean, you basically, which the whole reason he got to Mount Doom is not because he was carried by people there. He got there yes, with the help of Sam and the other people, but on his own merits. He didn't actually like lose his battle with the ring until the very, very end. He needed that willpower, which he showed time and time again on his own to get there.
Ooh.
He stood up against the writers, not once, but twice. He stood up to them in Weathertop. Actually, no, 3 times. He stood up against them when they were leaving Bree at Weathertop and at the Fort of Bruin. He stood up to them 3 times, even after wearing that, even having that thing in his shoulder, the little bit of the sword in his shoulder for 21 fucking days.
Aubrey, what say you to this? Tim Burton didn't read any Batman comic books.
Okay. No. Let me jump in on this one. Back in the 80s, when that movie was made, Batman had already been taken into so many side stories, and the direction they went was because this was post Jason Todd. Oh, you're getting 4s of the nerd right now.
And you had Frank Miller who worked on the production and also worked on the script, if I'm correct. I think it was Frank Miller. So
Batman had already gone off into so many renditions, and you have to remember the audience, okay, Van. Yes. Back in 1987?
That was the 90s, wasn't it?
89. No, it was 89 when it was released.
Okay, so back in 89, Batman had not been on a screen since 60s.
It's the 60s, yes.
So that's what people in their heads were ridiculously expecting to happen, and then you've got this dark, brooding Michael Keaton hitting the screen like, whoa, Batman's dark, oh my god. No. Batman's Frank been Miller. Dark for a long time. Just people didn't pay attention. In the 30s,
yeah.
Well, it was because when they made Batman for television, there was a lot of restrictions on what they could actually do.
Well, yeah, because
so he had to be more campy and more.
Absolutely, because Batman back in the 60s was considered a superhero, and if you were going to be a hero on television, you had to inspire people. You couldn't be an anti-hero. Anti-heroism didn't start on screen until the mid 80s. You couldn't be bad and good.
Right. But going back to Lord of the Rings, it's not.
I disagree. It started in the 70s, The Incredible Hulk.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Okay, I don't know as much about that. But the problem is that with Lord of the Rings, yes, it is a beautifully made movie. I'm not going to deny that it's a beautifully made movie. I don't have it. It's not. If you love it, that's great. I'm not going to yuck your yum on it, but it's not Lord of the Rings. It just isn't. It is not. It's not Lord of the Rings. It just isn't. And I'm not. And it's a failure on a lot of storylines. He didn't understand. And that was a story that's told, and it's not good for those reasons. You're missing so much of what could have been shown on screen that would have been good, like a really, really true adaptation. He had the ability to do it, and he didn't. None of the characters acted like they should have, with the exception of Boromir, and that's because Sean Bean fought for that. He fought for each of those lines that he got. He fought for them because he knew Tolkien, and he knew how the character needed to be played.
You realize he dies in everything he's in.
Yes, I know, but I'm just telling you.
Gollum was the perfect Gollum.
I can go. I mean, I can have a 6-hour rant of like everything that's wrong with those movies. I'm just giving you, but I'm not going to. I'm just telling you.
That's okay.
It's a personal thing based on Lord of the Rings. I've seen it done much better. Go watch the animated. You want to get to me. You want to get more true to the story. Like Lord of the Rings that did it better in 2.5 hours and went through 1.5 books. Then Tolkien did with the 3 movies that went through each book, which he didn't even get that ending right in 2 Towers. Sorry, like he didn't end it right. So that's why the pacing and the timing of the 3rd movie is so fucked up because he didn't end it where he should have. And that's the issue. So no, I'm not triggered. I'm passionate. This is passionate. This is not triggered. I talk about this a lot. This is my passion. I love Lord of the Rings. I understand it. I get it. It's been my favorite book since I was 11. Even longer than that. When I first heard the 1981 BBC production of Lord of the Rings, I understand those books. I read them. I've read them. I have like 3 or 4 different like things of him. I have almost everything Tolkien's owned. So, I mean, I understand, but yeah, I mean, that's why I don't like it.
I think I'm just caught up in the representation of each character. Like I like Smeagol. To me, there will never be a better Smeagol to me. There will never be a better Gandalf to me. You know, I mean, it touches my heart when I hear freaking Ian McKellen. I'm gonna do it. Like he's so. The way I heard Gandalf when I was a little kid, because I watched the cartoon and we reread it in high school, and you know, you think just a regular old man could just no, Gandalf is not just a regular old man. He has to have a commanding but also a softness to him, and I think McKellen did that in the most.
John DeMeasure does a fantastic Gandalf.
I mean, just could you imagine? Like he's just in your
actual
face,
lines from the movie,
like
from the book. Rather.
He's just like
Bilbo Baggins. You haven't changed a day. Like how?
I'm sorry. When you have like the whole thing about the love of the halfling leaf has certainly like has corrupted your mind. When the whole thing about that's actually tobacco pipe. It's not weed, and they're making it sound like it's weed. That is an issue. When you have Merry and Pippin going around being fucking idiots. When that was never that was not their character at all.
Yeah,
you don't have anyone acting like they are, like they should be in the whole of the movies.
I like
none of them. You have
Pippin was kind of an
stoners
idiot.
at
Way
the end
too
of
aggressive.
freaking Two Towers.
I like this comment from James down here.
Gandalf quiet quit on the Fellowship. Oh man!
Because the Eagles had sentience. That's the and if they took the ring, they would want it for themselves. And also, you had the flying creatures from Mordor, and the
maybe that should be another show we have, is just having people have it out on discussions on movies, just tell them why they're fucking wrong.
No, not in the way that it was told. I'm sorry, Peter R. Spiegel wrote the script beautifully, and he understood what Lord of the Rings was. I disagree with you absolutely. In fact, I would say that Peter Jackson heavily on a lot of the visuals borrowed from the movies. Visually, I'm not talking about story, but visually, a lot of the stuff. The part where you have them in Moria, there's a part there that was heavily influenced by the animated series. Also, when you see the Black Rider and the hobbits are under that little ledge there, that's also heavily taken from the animated series. So I disagree. I don't agree with you. So anyways,
take that, motherfucker.
Yeah, take that.
Jeez, man.
Anyways,
we love Saber.
I've gone to so many of these rants. I hate it. I hate going into these rants.
It's okay because I literally asked for it. Like I literally asked you for this because I just wanted to know. I will never not love the Lord of the Rings movies, but I still respect and love the books as well.
It's okay if you
but again,
do it.
It's for different reasons. It's because, and this is why I'm not the biggest fan of the Hobbit movies, because they feel more like a theme park ride, like an Indiana Jones. You know, the boulder's going to chase us down the freaking. No, I couldn't do it. There was that charm that drew my wife and I into the Lord of the Rings films was just stripped away from the Hobbit. It really was. Bilbo was played great, but it just wasn't as well delivered as you know the characters in the Lord of the Rings series was. And so not to mention the fact that they literally made up a character or at least got her out of the Silmarillion at some point and just slapped her in there. And I'm like, dude, really?
Tauriel doesn't exist.
So Tauriel doesn't. Okay, so yeah, no go.
Really quick, I want to say goodnight to Graveyard. We will see you Sunday.
Good night,
I'm
Graveyard.
very excited about our
later,
interview.
Graveyard.
And typically this is about a 2-hour show, but
we're on it tonight. Yeah, we might want to go into after party mode at this point.
I'm telling you, I still feel like that's like a whole separate show.
We're on a roll.
It's a separate show thing.
After dark, after show.
Let me go
after dark after party. That's what it'll be called.
Let's do the outros like dumb quick, and then we'll go into after party.
Well, I won't end the broadcast though. No, let's just keep, you know what? Fuck it. People can just turn off if they want to turn off. We'll end it.
Yeah, we're just going.
Yeah, bitches, turn it off and go to bed. You
bitches.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Gentlemen.
Did you
You guys
notice
are
that
funny.
Fours is happier this broadcast? You know, because
Yeah.
he doesn't work
I
for
am.
the
I
funeral
Come on,
home
Forrest, say fuck.
anymore.
Say
Say
it.
fuck.
Do
Just
it.
say it.
Oh, my dog's
You
like,
missed
why
it
haven't
the
you
last
gone to
time,
bed,
Dave.
Daddy?
Missed
Yeah,
it,
well,
Dave.
What's wrong,
It's okay.
Rosalie?
I will get him to do it again.
Oh, poor Rosalie.
You will say fuck.
I'm sorry I can't help you with that, Dave.
You will say fuck.
He's using his Jedi mind control on you.
He's the Darth
Yeah,
and
it's
I'm
not
the
gonna work.
Jedi Knight.
You've got 2 Siths and 2 Jedis here. I think that's really funny.
Yes.
Wait,
Red
so who are
blade
the
for
2
life.
Siths? I know who once. Oh, gotcha.
I fully contend. You know what? I fully say. I gotta see if I can find it now. Fours may have it there. The Sith code. I fully contend that Kyber Cave was built on the Sith code.
Oh,
Because
the without passion, there's not power and all that stuff.
all that stuff came through, and you know what? I think it comes down to how you use it, right? I mean, like, I think passion is what you need. If you don't have passion, how can you go on doing something day in and day out, especially when you're not getting the results that you want, right? It's easy to do something when you have passion, but when you're getting the results that you want. But if you don't have passion or you don't have the results, it's hard to keep doing what you're doing.
No. I'm gonna contend with you on that one, okay? Because when people ask me, how did you deal with disabled kids and adults with severe maladaptive behaviors for 10 years? And when I say severe, I'm talking about biting and aggression and self-injurious behavior, stuff that they don't bring these individuals out into public. People you don't think about, you don't know about. And they're like, dude, how did you do this for 10 years? How did you transition from that into the funeral industry for an additional 5? I'm gonna tell you why.
Dead people are easier to deal with.
Did it burn me out? Every day. Did you get tired of the staff drama? Every day. Well, if you hated the job so much, then why the freak did you do it? Because I'm dad and I'm husband and I am second. That's the hell why. You do
Because
what
you also
the hell
get
you
people-
have to do.
Right. And then you could get people every once in a while that end up like me, who started in a school like that. So
And it wasn't even a school. I mean, it was a group home.
that's, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I mean, I was in a severely autistic school when I was for preschool and beginning part of it. So they thought I was severely autistic.
These were individuals who could not be in jail because they were a
Wow.
danger to the people in jail.
So
Right.
these are like people who are insane to the point of like
These
criminally
are
insane.
folks who are clinically, on the spectrum. They have the diagnosis of, having autism and things like that. However, their
functioning.
behavior patterns are, they don't get their way. They are now biting chunks out of their arm, or they are taking the chair they're sitting in and now chucking it at the staff.
Hey, let me ask you guys.
For 10 years.
Let me ask you a question. I work at right now. I currently work at a school for kids with different special needs. Not all of them are severe mental disabilities. We do have several children that are, maybe self-injurious or hurt the people around them. And it's not like all of them are doing it intentionally. A lot of them don't even have control of their bodies. They don't necessarily know what they're doing.
Correct.
Do you feel now? This is gonna be a tough one, guys. This might be, might come down to some of your morals. Do you feel that there's any place for like almost like euthanasia? If a person is taking up more resources, if a person takes 3 or 4 people to help sustain them to keep them alive, and that they're not going to be able to participate or contribute to society or anything, should we be investing these resources into these people?
Yes.
Once upon a time, I thought the same way you do.
No, I'm not. I'm asking a question. I'm not saying I believe that.
Okay.
I obviously work in a special needs school, so I think it would be pretty obvious what my thoughts are. However, I sometimes wonder, okay, I had this one gentleman that I worked with who was clearly not going to be capable of surviving on his own. He would never be able to have his own job or apartment or anything. And I had often wondered, because his parents were getting older in age in years, and he did have violent tendencies. I'd often wondered what would happen to this gentleman. You know, and this is a person who the mother constantly had 2 people on staff who lived in the house with her because she was afraid to be home alone with this child. And I was I was the relief for the staff. So when the people that lived in the house had to have a weekend off or time off or whatever, I was the person that came in to give them a break. And then you look at all the doctors and resources, and I used to think about how many resources it took to keep this person alive, but that they would never ever be able to contribute anything back into that.
Yeah.
David, I wanted to know your thoughts. You answered really quickly on that one. It seemed like you might have some thoughts.
Well, for me, I look at it very simplistically. Life is sacred. You know, there's, you know, people can have things or be born a certain way. That doesn't make their life any less valuable. It can be heartbreaking, it can be heart-wrenching, it can be difficult to deal with. However, that's still a living, breathing human. And there has to be compassion and effort, especially if they can't, or if they're incapable of taking care of themselves.
Right. What about for the parents though? I used to work as a behavioral interventionist. And I was the type of person, I worked specifically with children on different levels of autism on the spectrum. I had some very high functioning learners, and I had some learners that were obviously going to need assistance for the rest of their life in one way or another. I totally forgot. What were you just saying, Dave? I totally skipped my train, just fucking derailed.
Life is sacred.
That's what he was saying. Life is sacred. I have a question. Are you talking about like quality of life? If their quality of life is not
yeah, okay, so not even okay. Thank you. That's where I meant to go to.
versus
So not even only
just behaviorally.
Well, a lot of, and that's part of it too, because as a BI, my job was to help give them a better quality of life. My job wasn't necessarily to teach them to go fill out a job application. My job was to help teach them how to button their own shirt, or how to how to ask for ketchup at the grocery store, or just little things that you and I take advantage of because we just do it on an everyday basis that some of these people had to learn how to do. But I often think about, you know, not giving any names, but I've had families that have had 2 and 3 children with severe disabilities, and the quality of life that the parents have had. I mean, they obviously, you know, no parent ever wants, you know, the only thing that any parent wants is a healthy child, right?
Right.
But when that happens and you're left you're in that situation, you know, a lot of times you give everything to your child, not thinking about how it's taken away or diminished from your life, right? One couple had multiple children with disabilities, and both the mother and the father, I remember, went to school. They were both in different parts of the medical field, and the mom was projected to have a fantastic career, but because of the severe challenges of the family, you know, having multiple children with severe disabilities, one of the parents had to stay home, and they, you know, elected to have her. What about her quality of life?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like if you, this is a very, very nuanced discussion that has layers that goes into a lot of different places. For me, at least, you know, as somebody, if I was carrying a child and I got a diagnosis before that it would be that severe, like say they would have very diminished brain capacity, or, you know, because they could do scans and see if the lights up or not, or, you know, born with those medical conditions, like I would have to make a very serious choice. and that's not something to be taken with me, but I think it is partially that it is, on that choice. Do I try to give that child a very diminished quality of life being born, or do I, before it comes to that point of that, do I end it? So then, maybe try again and maybe check to make sure that next time that it's a better, so that quality of life can happen, or do I just do the birth anyways and then try my best with that? That's a very different, it's a really ambiguous.
We might need to write this one down. I actually think this would be a good topic, a whole separate topic for another show. But, because now, just like Aubrey's saying, we're able to do scans. There's a lot of tests that we can do on children in utero. When it comes down to a question, if you found out that you were going to have a severely disabled child who would forever, for the rest of their life, need somebody to take care of them.
Things. I'm talking about like really severe stuff. I mean, I was born and I had hypothermia, and I was.
I'm not talking about ADD or even.
No. I had muscle tone issues. Like I was delayed on all my milestones. They thought I was severely autistic. So I mean, but my brain, but they didn't have the technology at the time. I mean, it'd be a gamble either way. I mean, unless you had like you had no brain, for instance, like they didn't have any brain activity, or you had these things. So I mean, it's a choice. To me, that's a personal choice of the parent.
Well, no, I'm asking each of you guys, like, what would it come down to with you? It sounds like you sound like you would have to make that choice on the individual level, but I would be willing to guess that David wouldn't feel the same way. I would be willing to guess that if David, and tell me if I'm wrong, David, if you knew that you were going to have a severely disabled child before the child was born, and you were in the position to choose whether to have that child or to have an abortion, what would you do? I'm talking a child that for the rest of their life, they're going to need some kind of attention, whether it's you or a family member or the state or somebody else.
Well, I mean,
I want to hear from David specifically.
I'd have to say that my belief in the sacred, in how sacred life is, and also due to some of my own religious beliefs as well. You're only given things that you can handle, and generally speaking, everything comes with a lesson. Maybe that would be my lesson on how to expand my compassion, how to expand my patience, how to you hear that ever hear that phrase, there's a lot of bad in the world, and if you can't find a good person, become one.
Right.
Now Jesus.
How would you feel if with your own child, you couldn't take them into public for fear that they may get people looking badly at them? And not just that, but also for fear that maybe your child might hurt another child or might injure another child, not on purpose. But
how are you going to predict that? How are you going to predict that when they're in the womb?
Well, if there are certain diseases that pop up, there are tendencies, and you can say if certain diseases pop up, you could say that you could look at a history and go, okay, a lot of people with this disease exhibit these type of behaviors. For example, fetal alcohol. A lot of people that have fetal alcohol, where the mother has been drinking during the pregnancy, they will have like their ears will actually be set back a little bit, and their forehead slightly more sloped, and their jawline is more sharp. There are physical things.
So they have some interesting physical features. You know what? Let me tell you something. Just making sure my son can't hear me. My son's mother drank and used drugs the entire time that she was pregnant with my son. You know my son. He turned out all right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that just because somebody drank that these things are going to happen. What I'm saying is that some things can be determined in utero. Some diseases or genetic anomalies can be determined, and because they know what those are, they can guess what type of life this child may or may not have. And of course, not everything's going to be accurate, but if you've got 100 people with the same disease and they all distribute, maybe a tendency towards violence or maybe reduce attention span or something like that, you can probably guess that person number 101 is going to just have these same kind of attributes. Not that they all exactly will, right?
Given the choice, if I had to, and I was fully aware, I probably would take the choice of carrying. But as a nurse, I mean, that's what I'm just going to say for David. Sorry, David, because I have to be the one to carry that child. I mean, it would ultimately be up to me because it'd be my body that's doing that.
Right.
But it is, so it's like, do you take that chance on that they might not be, or as long as I had a full understanding of what I was getting into. I think the worst problem is that a lot of people aren't given that choice. They aren't given, and they don't even understand fully what it is that all that entails. They're like, oh, your child's gonna have this syndrome, but they don't tell you what the syndrome is, and they don't give you a really detailed or they don't let you know, like, this is what these people exhibit and let you make the decision based on an informed, on that information. I think it's a disservice to people because they don't know. I mean, I think that you're always going to be a parent no matter what, with these kids anyways. I mean, my I'm an adult and my mom still comes over all the time and she still mothers me as much as sometimes I wouldn't like her to, so you never stop being a parent.
Right. I'm looking at Janinia's comment. In my opinion, if they choose to see a pregnancy through and bring that child into the world, then they have a responsibility to see it through. I find that one's tough for me because I think I'm in the opinion that for me, if I knew ahead of time, and this was obviously a decision I'd have to make with my partner who was pregnant, right? It's not just, well, you're going to do this or that or whatever, right? But if this is a decision, say, we came to together, I think if I knew ahead of time, I might be inclined to the abortion. If I did not know and the child came out with disabilities, I would be inclined to take care of that child under those circumstances that the child was born through. I will say, this is very different. I would be very interested to know if I would be very interested to know if Janinia has special needs children or has special needs children close in her life of any type, because I have met plenty of parents. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying most of them. Maybe 5% of parents whose lives have been so turned upside down, and they have done everything they can do. I mean, these are people that don't sleep at night and are trying to do the best they can for the child, but for one reason or another, they just cannot parent these children, and they've had to give them up to the foster care system or things like that. So I will say that it's unless you've been in that position, it's very easy to say, I would take care of a child. But when you're in that position, and not just in that position for a week, when you've been in that position for 10 years or 11 years, and you haven't had a single night of, I have students at my school who literally yell all day long. You can hear them in the next classroom, and they're not yelling because they're in pain or they're suffering. That's just what they do. That's part of their, they're just loud children. But I only have to deal with that for 6 hours a day. I have it's difficult for me to imagine the lives of some of these families when, you know, a mother and a father just want to take their kid out to dinner and just have a nice one simple dinner out but they can't because there's going to be some kind of distraction. I have a lot of compassion. I feel a lot, not just for the children, but for the entire families that go through these.
I'm with you, Van. I'm honestly, I think I actually more side with you on this case, but it comes down to informed consent.
Right.
And
it is a tough, I know. I'm kind of being a dick. It is a tough question. It's something that I think about specifically because I work in this industry a lot, and there's a lot of the children that I see that, you know, that we're going to be able to help and work with, and they're, you know, maybe they've had some setbacks in life. You know, some of these children have come from homeless situations or not stable lives. Sometimes it's their parents that are fucked up. Maybe their parents are, you know, not doing well. Maybe they're not staying with their job, or they're doing drugs or whatever. You know, it's not necessary. I can see that these children will be able to go and become normal members of society and pay their bills and you know, just be regular people. There's some children that I see that I know for a fact will never ever not need somebody permanently by their side 24 hours a day to help take care of them. And so,
I mean, I guess, yeah, for me, looking at it passionately, in that sense of like, I look at their quality of life too. Like, what are they, especially if you've got somebody who doesn't have any upper brain function.
Right.
And that's hard because it's like, that is because I've seen that, and it's, hey,
what are your thoughts, Force?
Now you ask me.
Well, you know, you are another parent on this.
I'm not a parent, so it's a hard time.
I've done this for. I can say that I have been a staff member. I have been an assistant to a behavioral analyst for 10 years. I was a staff member, I was a med passer, and I was a supervisor. There is a very, 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 very big difference between being a parent to somebody with disabilities and extreme maladaptive behaviors. Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about disabilities, or are we talking about disabilities with extreme maladaptive behaviors? Is that what we're talking about?
Possibly there could be some. I've worked with, like I said, I had the one situation where I worked with a grown gentleman who had violent tendencies.
Okay.
That's one thing. But then there are some other adults that don't necessarily have violent tendencies, but they have very little quality of life.
Okay.
So I would say both.
Okay. All right. Well,
and you may have different feelings for both categories.
I do, because again, I've worked with the worst behaviors you can possibly imagine. The worst. You know, I mean, that I've worked in a situation where a very, 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 very well-known person had a kid that nobody ever knew about and wanted kept secret, was put into where I was working because he didn't want the public to know he had a child with extreme maladaptive behaviors and multiple disabilities because his reputation. But we cared for this individual. Note my vocabulary here. We cared for this individual. And this individual was not treated any different than any other individual. They had a clinical plan. They had proper medication, which was prescribed to help their condition, but they were given a very normal, good, healthy quality of life. Yes, there were behaviors. Yes, there were issues. Yes, there were problems. And yes, the staff were responsible for following that clinical plan. And the analysts and the therapists and the medical staff, and you know, they are all responsible for providing the care necessary as deemed by this company and medical staff to provide this quality of life. However, I'm a point out something that never changes, and that is quality of life. That is quality of life. Now, your original question. Let me get back to your original question, which I believe was if a scan or multiple scans or today's technology were utilized to determine if my wife was, going, if she's 7-8 months along and this equipment was utilized to determine brain processes or lack thereof or particular disabilities that via a history they would then tell us, okay, well, this disease means, they could in the future be prone to be aggressive or prone to self-injurious behavior. Well, then, I would take that with a grain of salt first, because everything has to do with the environment. You see what I'm saying? Like, yes, I understand.
That's another classic debate: is environment versus nurture versus nature.
Nature versus nurture. Yeah, yes, I understand, and I also understand that many clinical diagnoses do have a common denominator. Like if you take, if you have if you have folks, 50 people with the same condition, and 47 of them exhibit aggressive and self-injurious behaviors, then of course they're going to go by those numbers. So if you're asking me, if we were presented with these statistics, what would we do?
Right.
My answer would be very simple. First, the conversation, the communication's key. Communication's number one. She and I would have to determine, are we prepared? Are we physically prepared? Are we mentally prepared? Are we emotionally prepared? And for believers out there, are you spiritually prepared? Are you prepared? That's not a bad conversation. It's not a
bad conversation, but I will say, Forrest, with the exception of people like yourself, with the exception of people like me, to some degree, probably not as much as you, and other people that have worked around people with severe disabilities, you can't really know the question to that until you've experienced it or been around it.
Truth.
You can think you're prepared for something, but until you have the experience of it, you can't know if you're prepared.
Right. Which then I will then point to Aubrey in something that she repeatedly says: educate yourself. Education. If you don't know, seek out, because you could always ask that doctor, okay, who are some folks that we can talk to get more knowledge and more, people with experience, and then we have more conversations, and then we determine, all right, are we prepared for this? And then and again, beyond that, if for some whatever reason, after very logical and deep conversation and tough consideration, if you God honestly believe you're not prepared, right? Seek out families who are, because there are, and I've been introduced to a few of them, there are people out there, and this is not a lie, there are people out there who are not going to be a staff member. They have no interest in being part of a clinical team. They have no interest in being paid. They are interested in truly helping, in providing this individual with a family unit that is real care. Is it few and far between in today's times? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. But they do exist. They do exist. I have met families, and these are not blood families. These are families. These are like a brother and a sister, right? Who just wanted to take on people with disabilities, with these behaviors, because number one, they were experienced, number two, they were educated, and number three, that's their passion in life. That's what they want to do. It is not a crime. It is my opinion that it is not a crime if you are not prepared, if you are willing to openly admit that you're not prepared, knowing that there are actions and things that are going to happen with this child who will then grow into an adult, and you're not prepared for the situations and scenarios, it is okay for someone to seek someone who says, you know what, we are prepared and we do care. We do care, and we want the quality of life for this child that you want for this child. That is okay.
Right.
I feel that is okay. But there, again, common denominator. There has to be quality of life. There is a large difference between let me finish real quick. There's a large difference between a full profit organization who pays people to give folks a quality of life, and folks out there who want to build families and provide a better quality of life and still take responsibility when the worst case scenarios happen.
So now I want to ask everyone, what did then is your definition of quality of life? Does quality of life mean simply being alive?
That's just life.
And also, I also wanted to clarify something really quick, because I feel like Janina is getting heated up over here. I want to clarify, I am not saying that everybody who drank or did drugs and had a baby, that there's going to be something wrong with that child. I'm saying that there are some instances where you can tell in utero that certain diseases, genetic diseases like she had mentioned, or other things may occur that will give you a certain outcome for your child. They may be born with such a disease. So I am not by any means saying that just because somebody did drugs and alcohol, that's going to mean that they're going to have a disabled child. I also understand that it's not a fair question at all. It's just a hypothetical question. So quality of life. I've worked in I told you I worked as a behavioral interventionist. One of my jobs was to go into people's homes and to come up with little games for these individuals that I was working with to work on life skills, right? So I may play a soccer game with the child, but it's to get them to work on their communication skills with another person, but we do it in a game format. I've been in homes where it was almost like caretakers. They're getting paid by the state, and they have 5 or 6 different people with disabilities that live there. But there's not these people. How do I say this? It's not that they're not like the loving homes that you were talking about, Aaron, where people have a passion for it. These are people that have found a way to make an extra income, taking care of people with disabilities by having them in their house and making, a certain amount of money from the state for each person that they're taking care of. And their quality of life in a lot of these places, not saying every place, but sometimes it's just sitting in front of the TV. It's not going on outings and trying to, enrich and educate them. With some places, it's just about, getting a paycheck and making sure that person is alive.
That's called a staff member. And yes, I've seen it. I've bore witness to it. I have. I've physically.
So what does quality of life mean then? How do we determine a quality of life? If you have no functional ability, right? You can't draw, you can't read a book, you can't functionally use computer or communicate with the outside world. Is that a quality of life? I mean, if I take care of this person and I bathe them and shower them and try to give them educational and experiences, but I know for a fact that they're not understanding, is that a quality of life?
Well, what's the alternative then? Being dead?
The alternative would be vegging. The alternative would be the staff member then comes in, sits them in front of the TV, sits on their phone for 8 hours. When the individual makes noise, they go to the restroom, self-care happens, dinner happens, and then they go to bed.
Right.
That is 100% real. It's 100% fact, and it happens in more places than you could ever want to possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
It's real.
And in places that people pay a lot of money for as well.
Correct.
To take care of those.
And not only that, and I don't want to get too far off subject, but it's not just disabled individuals. It's not just disabled individuals with maladaptive behaviors. It
elderly
is
people too.
the elderly.
Yeah, and I can't stand for that. I'll never.
Another reason why I got out of the funeral industry.
Never.
So, I guess to answer your question, Van, you have to define quality for each individual.
It's individual. It's an individual.
Sometimes,
choice.
correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes being in front of the TV could be the only thing that keeps an individual calm. So if you're keeping an individual calm, if they are calm and they are in a good place and they're not hurting others, and no, you're not leaving them to veg, but you're providing them with the clinical need so that they are in the best possible scenario. Best possible scenario equals quality. So yes, it is a quality of life.
Right. Mezzo says, I remember working in respite care for a time. The training was full service. And I always made sure to talk to them and spend time with them. I have, with some of my special needs kids, it's kind of funny because I speak to them as if they are going to have a conversation back with me. But I feel like, it's part of just treating them the same way you would treat anybody else. But it feels sometimes awkward because I know I'm not going to get a response back. You know what I mean? I can say, hey, how are you doing this morning? Are you having a good morning? And, I might get noises or something, but not actual verbal things. Sorry. Anybody else have some thoughts? We can totally move out of this. I don't even know why I brought this. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
No, that's fine.
No, this is
the deep stuff that this channel's about. I mean, these are the tough questions that we could answer.
Right.
This is it's a great question. I mean, and that's why I had to be like, well, what do you mean by quality of life? Do you mean like someone who's a vegetable or someone who has maladaptive behaviors? Or
there are so many. There's so many cases out there.
And I wanted to say something on the thing about fours when you talk about that person, a well-known person who didn't like that their child was maladaptive, and he tried to put them away so no one would know about them. I think that person is a disgusting human being.
Yeah, that's a whole separate thing. I've seen families that didn't know what else to do, and they knew that if they were to try to continue to take care of this child, they themselves or the child could get injured or hurt because the parents just don't know what else to do. Maybe they're exhausted from doing this day in and day out. I always feel bad, and I don't fault those families at all.
No, I'm just saying for ego reasons, like, oh, I don't want it to get bad that I had this because it's going to say something about me.
That kind of bullshit.
That is different than I literally do not have the tools to take care of this child properly so that they have the best chances they can get. That I have all the needs so I can fill all the needs for them.
Right. James, we just decided to run long on this show just because we typically, this is a 2-hour show and we're really pretty good about staying right at about that 2:10. But tonight we just started bullshitting and this was the getting to know us. So I guess you're getting to know half of our crew. I love that he said I could have watched AOCC twice during the stream.
Dang, dude.
It would probably still be just as terrible and forgettable each time.
Metz was like, I was surprised you guys are still on. Yeah, we got started late, so we're at the 3-hour and 9-minute point right now.
At 3:08.
Yeah, 3 hours and 9 minutes.
I'll say this. Regardless of how anybody answers the question, Van, my love for you guys never changes. I'm not gonna think or I'm not gonna think less of any of you guys. It's an industry I was in for 10 years, not five as a staff, 4 as a supervisor, and 1 as HR. And from my perspective, I've seen so many things. There are so many things I can't unsee. There are so many truths that have become apparent to me. There are things that I will never in this life forget. Many of them make me very, very sad. A lot of them make me very, very happy, and they restore my faith in humanity to know that there are some folks who their hearts just are that big. And I wish there was more coverage of people with hearts that big. It brings me joy to know that there are joyous people who wish to help when others simply cannot. And I'm not going to say will not, cannot.
Right. I remember seeing a documentary when I was in early childhood education about, I think it was right after Russia, when the USSR broke up into its smaller states, Ukraine becoming one of them, and they were talking about the poverty and how war stricken they were, that a ton of families were giving up children to their orphanages, or the parents had been murdered during the war and they didn't know where relatives were, so these children, and you would have, it was just heartbreaking. It was like one nurse to 100 children, and it was just, there was no time for personal attention. It was literally feed the child, change a diaper, move to the next one, and just keep that in rotation. But the developmental disabilities that a lot of these children would gain because they didn't have that social interaction was absolutely heartbreaking.
I mean, there's a bunch of other things, kids being sold to child.
Oh, that's my fucking, dude. I had actually, when I was a spoken word poet, I had a poem. One of my more popular, or one of the ones that I was known for, was called "Sister by the Sea," about child trafficking, specifically in Vietnam, because I'm Vietnamese, and Vietnam at the time was the number 3 country in the world for child trafficking, and that is something I cannot tolerate, or I mean any trafficking at all. Anytime you are forcing somebody to do something that they don't want to do.
Oh yeah, that's where it comes down for me. I think it's just about having the choice. It's understanding what you're getting into and having the choice to make it. I think that's, for me, it's the big caveat. And also, don't blame the child. Like, they didn't ask to be born.
Right. Remember, all children are products of their environments. There are no bad children. There are bad teachers. And those teachers, remember, the first teacher is the parent. That's why, whenever I hear people making jokes about millennials and shit, the first thing I hear in my head is how bad of parents they were. If you want to crack on the younger generation, it's your fucking fault.
I mean, I was told I would never walk. I was told so many things, and my mom just was like, "Nope, we're doing all these things." And the thing is that she taught me, like, so much, she didn't give up on me, and luckily, I mean, I didn't have, obviously, some of the things that they said after they decided to give me an IQ test and all that. But I mean, I had all of these issues to get through, and any lesser parent, I think, might have given up.
Right. It happens.
So, I mean, there's that. And then that's why I'm like, when it just goes back to that. And I always think of, like, the Kennedy case, when you had the Kennedy that was put away just because she wanted to be a free person, because she wanted to be sexual and all these things. She was normal. She wasn't even that bad. She just was more or less like a more progressive person. But she's a more progressive. I mean, she probably had, like, she had her own things, but I'm just saying that, like, it was just interesting.
Right. Really quickly, I want to say that for me, no road trip. It is not a road trip unless there's beef jerky in the car.
Heck yeah.
That is my road trip snack.
Now.
In fact, that's the only time. I'm so Asian, I will only splurge on beef jerky when it's a road trip, because that is a sign that we're going to splurge on shit anyways.
Bacon jerky, the best of both worlds.
Janinia, this has been a good topic and fun tonight. And, again, as always, I don't want anybody to feel like, because especially myself, I like to play devil's advocate a lot. But I don't want people to feel like we are being judgmental of people that have an opinion one way or another. These are just interesting things to think about that we don't often talk about in polite company, right? These are things that sometimes you only talk to your best friend about, or maybe you're even afraid to talk to your friend about it. But that's what Kyber Cave After Dark is. It's a place where we can talk about things that might be a little tougher to discuss.
It's a place where we can be real.
Exactly.
Right.
In a disturbingly real world.
And that
So
was
we
why,
can start
honestly,
talking about. No, forget.
that's why the light topic is important to me. Like we've talked before in the Kyber Cat chat about just having one topic, and like why do I always need a light and a heavy topic? I think the light topics a lot of times balance out the heavier shit that we talk about on this channel.
Too heavy heavy topics would stress us to freak out, and we'd be at each other's throats.
I mean, and we're sometimes we're going to go into heavier topics, and sometimes they're just fun things.
Look, fucking James is in Oregon, Messo's in the Redwoods, dude. Everybody's on vacation. That's by the way, thank you for all the people that are taking vacations and still hanging out with us. We let
all the MVPs.
And of course, we love Janina and everybody that's at home spending time with us. I'm actually happy Janina is back because we missed her last week when
By the way, you're pronouncing her name wrong. It's Janina.
Janina.
Fuck, I'm sure I did. Janina. I'm sorry, Janina. God damn it.
Back to the pet peeves.
Yeah.
Say people's names correctly, dang it.
I know. I'm sorry, Janina.
So on next week's topic, grammar Nazis.
It's all right. I'm happy to say that I am a grammar Nazi. It's fine.
You ever hear people pronounce the word specific as Pacific?
Pacific. Or wolf.
That
wolf is wolf.
Rips me every fucking time. Be Pacific.
You know what drives me nuts?
Atlantic.
And I secretly, I take note every time I hear people say this. Whenever somebody starts a sentence with, to be honest, I never trust shit from them again. Why are you only honest this time?
I'm going to be
Why
honest.
Why aren't you always honest?
Time.
Honestly?
I'm going to be for real with you.
Yeah, right. Aren't you for real every other time?
Real talk.
No.
Real talk. I love irregardless. That one always
irregardless.
Irregardless.
Right, and yeah, we get Mezzo's name wrong all the time. Or I just call her Mez a lot too. There's a silent T in there, Mezzo.
It's like pizza, but
mezzo. Yeah, it's mezzo for mezzo forte. It's Italian.
We know
what she should do. She should put mezzo and then parentheses MET-SO. Mezzo.
Mozzarella.
James says Mezzo's in the Redwoods hunting Ewoks. For those that don't know,
how do you know the Ewoks aren't hunting you? Little cannibals.
Oh.
Yep. Or mezzo forte. Yeah, mezzo soprano. It's middle. That's basically what it means. It means middle.
All right, y'all. All right, how you guys feeling? What do you want to do?
Keep it rolling.
I gotta put these dogs. I gotta let these. I love you guys, but I gotta let these dogs out and go the freak to bed.
Yeah, we're at about 3:17 right now.
My brain is fried. I really enjoyed this though, guys. But my brain is
tonight
fried.
has been a fun night. I kind of wish we had everybody, John and Anthony, and even Mezzo to get in more on this. Ginny, you're awesome. We will have Mezzo back for Sunday night show, where Graveyard will be our guest. Let's do our little outros, guys. Let's end this the way we usually do. We'll start with Aubrey.
Hi, I'm Aubrey McCoy. You can find me on Facebook. I'm an actor, singer. I'm part of an awesome new band, BYL. We're going to release a single soon.
What is BYL? Bring Yo Liquor?
It's whatever you want it to be. That's part of the fun. It's an acronym.
I'm calling it Bring Yo Liquor. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
We just finished a song. That's gonna be released soon. It did win for showing on the on Women of Substance podcast. So it's pretty cool. So
nice.
Just keep an eye out for it. Yeah, and I'm here.
And she's here, and hopefully we'll see Aubrey on some of the gaming shows that we have coming up.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I'll be doing more actings here in the future soon. Too.
All right. Mr. David.
Yeah, Darth David tonight. Or just
Darth
David.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, gotta let the inner darkness out right now. I don't know. I'm just kind of burnt out. It's been a great show. I've enjoyed the hell out of this. Yeah, I'm David. I'm here. The very popular, always familiar nobody.
The famous nobody.
The famous nobody. The infamous nobody.
Well, we love you here. We're always happy to have you here, David. You'll always be part of our family.
Well, thank you. Swordsman, shit talker, you know me.
Yeah.
Tune in for more. Maybe next time I'll be more vulgar.
Yeah. Or maybe next time Forrest will.
I will get Forrest to say fuck it again, and I'm going to get him to do it on camera during Kyber Cave After Dark. If I have to go all the way out there to Florida and stick a hot needle up his butt.
Wow.
Fuck, what the hell?
And on that, Forrest.
Hi. I need you guys to go over to Kyber Cave, and I want you to buy a saber. I want you to subscribe to Kyber Cave, and I want you to win a saber. And then you're going to go to forzfx.com, and you're going to buy a sound font from me. You're going to put it on the saber. Or you're going to go to Saber Font, where you're going to find my stuff and the stuff of so many other talented people out there, like Harry Solo Fonts, for example, and get his stuff put on your saber. And then you're going to come back to the Kyber Cave, and you're going to check out the gaming channel where Mezzo is going to be playing the Mortuary Assistant, and Forz is going to be playing The Last of Us Part 1 on PlayStation 5.
Yes.
When are you doing that, Forz?
I'm recording it tomorrow. I'm recording it tomorrow, and I'm going to try to get it posted Monday, hopefully.
Monday. Oh my God, Monday would be a great.
I don't know. Tomorrow. I think I'll play it maybe around 6:30 ish.
Okay.
My time 6:30, so that would be 3:30 your time.
Oh, but you're recording, so it's not going to be live.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm recording it. I could take it live, but I would need this channel's information. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is buy fonts from me, buy sabers from Kyber Cave, watch Saber Rattle, watch the Kyber Cave gaming, come back and join us next Friday night, and may the fours be with you.
And
always. All right, I am Ark Excala of the Kyber Cave. We are Kyber Cave and Kyber Cave Productions. Make sure to check out kybercave.com. We have lots of Saber and Saber-related items there. We've got the holidays are coming up here soon. We have NeoPixel and fighting sabers. We specialize in fight sabers because we like to beat each other up with glow sticks around here. But for those of you that like to cosplay and like the higher end sabers, we do have NeoPixels as well. Check out Kyber Cave Productions and please become a member of our Patreon. You can do that for as little as $1 a month. Check out Patreon.com/Kyber Cave Productions. That helps bring this show and a bunch of this show, Saber Rattle, and Kyber Cave Gaming, including new shows that we have coming out, new exclusives that will be on Patreon, special gifts that you can only get there, and exclusive access to individual members of this crew. We got to find like individual things to like with y'all, like a Q&A. Meet Aubrey, meet David.
I'll pick my nose on camera.
I do want to thank all of you for being with us. Make sure to check out Kyber Cave on YouTube. Watch a bunch of our past shows. There's lots of fun topics. And as always, we will be back here next Friday night. We'll be back here this Sunday, Wednesday, and then again next Friday night. So until then, y'all, we love you guys.
Good night, everybody.
Star Wars 2 is the best. Peace, y'all.
Star Wars 2. All right, night.